Hey, how's everybody doing tonight? A little no life beekeeper chat tonight. Not much happening. Well, that's not entirely true. I got all 10 queen cells put out. I've got been waxing frames all day long. Seems like started raining in the middle of it, so then I had a bunch of old wet frames, and now I'm trying to let the frames dry. But I did every medium that I had in my honey house, and I did every deep I had in my honey house that was already hadn't been there yet. So have any of you guys ever seen this before? A queen eat her way through the side of a cell? Thought that was kind of unique. She did also chew out the top, but for some reason she was chewing back through the side. But got all those out, and then went ahead and waxed a bunch of frames. And tomorrow, hopefully the weather holds out, because it rained. It was nasty this morning. Then it rained. Then the sun came out, but it didn't dry everything all the way up. So I'm trying to get all that stuff. The problem is I'm running out of space for it all. So now I'm going to have to start putting those frames into supers and getting them ready to go. And, trying to get deep foundation drawn on the couple colonies. So a bunch of different little stuff like that. I got all the foundations for the Vivor colony, or the Vivor hive, waxed up. So just been a busy day, and the weather didn't want to play with us, right? Played nice today. Not at all. So that's what was happening. So links in the description, in the chat, pinned to the top if anybody wants to come in. Charlie's probably cutting the rug. Matter of fact, Brian. Yeah, I just saw that one. I was like, wait a minute, I've got my own. I've got my own. I like that. So let me see here. Make sure that's weird. All right. That was weird. Brian, I got to ask you some questions if you got time. If you're too busy, I understand. You notice I'm starting to go a little bit later to include the West Coasters in a little bit. The left side of town. So this has to do with candles. So if anybody is a candle maker and knows any profitability on it, it'd be a nice little conversation. But yeah, so guys, I've been putting the old competitive advantage queen rearing pins to, you see it's got like everything on it. It's got propolis scratched up a little bit already. I've been carrying it everywhere. It's good money in candles. But how do you, well, I guess the fact that it would be 100% beeswax and not like soy candle, right? Or do you need to blend it soy candle? Hey, Stuffy. Hey, Carl. We got Todd and Steve and Lee. Dennis. Beautiful day in Colorado. It was nice today here after the rain went away. It was pretty nice. I've had, you know what? Oh, I've had people calling me for queens too. One guy wanted 5 queens, and I don't. No life. So we watch Bob. Yeah, I probably could have sold at least 20 queens already without even trying. That's just people calling me for queens. Yeah, I gotta Sting the like over here too. I got us on both channels. Matt, how you liking the new laser? I watched your unboxing. Oh, my man. Brian, how's it going, man?
Going? Doing okay. How are you?
You look like you got some sun today. You were outside?
I was outside. Yeah. Today was beautiful. I got a couple of minutes. I can't stay long, but go ahead. Shoot. What you got?
So, candles. Do you do them?
Yeah.
But are you using molds or are you using like the jars?
This is actually perfect. Silicone mold. Silicone mold. Whole bunch of silicone molds. Right?
So, with the silicone molds,
yeah,
they're expensive. I know that.
Yes.
That's so, right. Do you find, have you tried to do them in just like a, well, I don't know how much wax goes in one mold. So
each one's different. And as they sell them, they tell you how much. And typically we price ours about per ounce times about 2.5, depends on the style of the candle.
Like $2.50 an ounce?
Yeah. Yep. So if it's 5 ounces, probably about $12, $13 kind of thing.
So that takes your wax from about $10, $12 to about $32 a pound.
Yeah. Yep. There's work that goes into it, and there's other parts as well. You got to pay off the molds, obviously. There's wicks. And then packaging as you sell it. You know, I'll tell you, Etsy has some really fun candle molds as well. So like this, the ghost, right? So we do that for like Halloween. Like, how cool is that?
Well, I was melting wax down and waxing frames, and my wife, she made a flawless or a fatal error, right? She said, "Oh, why didn't you tell me you were getting beeswax? I could have made some candles." I'm like, so you want to make candles, huh? So
you got an employee? Is that what you're saying?
Possibly. Well, she'd probably be a independent contractor.
I was gonna say she'd be the boss real quick, huh?
So I was just sitting here debating whether jars or like tins or, you know, it's all about the marketing, right?
So I'll tell you a couple other things that we use. This is the wick we use. Firefly. That's the company. And they look like this. And they come in different sizes. So it's got a little base as well. So we actually do candles in glass jars as well that taper up. They're actually at Costco. You can get tiramisu. And Jen just gets tiramisu, and then I eat it, and then we use the glass jars for the candles.
You repurpose them.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I mean, that's just another idea. Now, granted, I had to buy beeswax just to wax my frames, right? But even at that, if I bought that same beeswax, if I could make $32 a pound, then I'm still in the plus.
Absolutely. As far as the market goes, we had a hard time selling candles in the summer just because it was hot, and who wants to burn a candle in the summertime in their house, right? So we actually struggled quite a bit at first. And then once like fall hit, once the weather changed, then it really got better. And we kind of
you got to think ahead, just like beekeeping, right? So if you're going to do candle making for the fall, instead of being stressed in the fall, you start making some now and getting them ready for the fall. Right.
So at Hive Life, Jen got a couple of new molds for the spring season, like a rabbit. There's like an egg with lavender on it, stuff like that. We'll probably take a little break in the summer, but we have this one Easter egg. It's a really big Easter egg. That's a better be one. That's a big one. But we'll make a couple of those. We have a Earth Day event coming up in 3 weeks, so we have to make a bunch of candles for those. We have there's these two like garden gnome kind of ones, so we sell them as a couple.
Right.
And they're only like about that big. So we sell them as a couple. You can't buy one. You're like, no, you can't split them up. They're a couple. So those are 15 each, and those are super cute. So Etsy is great for like the really creative and interesting ones. They're cheaper. I don't know how long they last in comparison.
Well, I think a lot of those people on Etsy, I've watched some videos in the past on it, and it seems like they're not only using beeswax, but they're also mixing soy wax pellets in
Some,
it.
yep.
Or selling soy wax candles instead.
Yeah.
And, so
that's one of the things that helps us stand out, because there's a lot of people selling candles at markets, and that's what they basically are, is the soy based, and they're very smelly. They're very essential oil based, and beeswax doesn't really hold essential oils very well. So we just do just beeswax, pure beeswax. We say it smells like honey, smells like beeswax.
Smells like money.
Yeah, for us. Yeah.
Hey,
it's fun.
Do you smell
it's easy to do.
It smells like $100 bill. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things that, hey, if my wife is showing interest, I'm gonna encourage her, right?
Absolutely. And we use our own cappings wax for our salves, our balms, our lip balms, that kind of stuff. But we have sourced out like 40 pounds of wax to make candles and stuff, because you just can't harvest enough wax to keep selling it and making
beeswax, a candle business.
So candles are one of the last things we got into, because that's what we did. We'd kind of stretch it as long as we could, and we would, lip balms, salves, lotion bars, those kind of things. And those are skincare products. So we wanted to use our beeswax. And then it got to the point where we were like, okay, we want to make beeswax candles, but we just can't produce that much beeswax. Then we started sourcing it out. And actually, Lee's on the chat. We got a 40-pound from Ebert's in Iowa. That was, I would say the cost was about the same as Daydant, because when I was ordering from Daydant, I was ordering enough to get the free shipping. But you could tell it came direct from the Beekeeper. It wasn't like from the Beekeeper to Daydant. And, you could tell it was right from that guy.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that, I'll tell you what, I waxed frames that I got right out of the box that have never been in the colony. And man, does it make a difference on the actual frame.
Yeah.
The wax on there. So,
so see, Lee's saying $7.85 for 10 plus pounds. That was, I think that was about right. But once shipping was included into it, then it kind of
weight, right? The mass.
Yeah. So with that shipping, it came out to be roughly the same as ordering from Daydant.
Let me see. Oh, so Gunline and Dennis looks like they're meeting up. But so that's one of the things that was kind of interested in going forward, expanding the operation, so to speak. But I don't go to markets, so the only thing I would have is Etsy, obviously my website, if I put them on there, right?
Yeah.
And then when people come up to buy honey, hey, now I've got beeswax candles, and so that's, y'all keep it up. My wife is listening. Yeah. So, she was interested in it, but, so you're saying beeswax doesn't hold the smell that well?
Not of essential oils. No, because a lot of essential oils will burn off at the temperature that beeswax, like 145 ish is where beeswax melts. And it's right. Variable, because there's different, ingredients, different components inside different beeswaxes, but getting hotter than that, a lot of essential oils will burn off at that heat. So when we're making things like salves and balms, we put that essential oil in at the lowest temperature possible right before it starts to solidify, so it doesn't. And then different essential oils burn off at different rates as well. Now, I don't know about fragrance oils, but we don't use fragrance oils. We use just pure essential oils.
Okay.
And I see Rockbridge, Rockbridge is great at selling on Etsy. They really do that well. And they're talking about they just do it well.
Well, I'm
But they take
looking at
care of
things
them.
like, you and I, well, on the stream, we've talked a lot about how presentation is everything
That's right.
when you're, especially when you're going to markets and stuff like that. So, I've got this laser sitting over there that would just love to do like bamboo lids with the nice logo on it, and
Yep.
something,
Like that jar you did for Earl. That's another great example of just a nice little touch that's going to take something. You can add a couple dollars to a product just by doing something like that because it makes it look real nice.
Yeah, I've seen that one, Bob Binney's video where they're taking a heat gun or a hair dryer and they're using foundation and rolling candles with the
Yeah.
foundation, sheets of foundation.
That's a newer one. Actually, one of his very first videos features his wife making a whole bunch of beeswax candles. So if you're interested, definitely check out that one's even better. We made the beeswax rolled candles one year, and man, we ended up giving them away to, like, Jen gave them away to all of her coworkers because at the end of the season they didn't sell. And I'm not sure what we did wrong or if people just didn't want it, but we had like holiday colors. We had a maroon, a forest green, and then an ivory white. We rolled them, we packaged them what we thought were really nice, and they just didn't move. So we only tried it once, and I'm not a big fan of trying it once because I've seen that sometimes markets are fickle and you take a product and it doesn't sell and it doesn't sell and it doesn't sell and then it finally does.
And then
But my
everyone's
wife,
coming to you, Jay, you still have that?
that's
You're like,
right.
no.
But I also want to like making my things, right? And
Right.
my wife, who did most of that, didn't really enjoy making them. So we're like, oh, well, let's not do it again if we don't want to. So.
Right. Well, just think if you had just a flat. Now I'm thinking outside the box here, but they got those rolling pins that have like different impressions that you could put in it.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
you could just have a flat wax sheet, heat it up, and roll that and imprint it, and then you could spin it. So you could make all different variations of that probably.
I've seen potters use those kind of rolling pins to get the patterns on the clay as they're making whatever.
Joey says, "Do things in
threes."
My puppy candle and my bear skep candle sell pretty good. So,
and that's what we've found. Like, we tried a couple different ones, and we've kind of just dialed in our candle line.
The bad thing about candles is the damn molds are so expensive that it's like you're gonna put that money out there on that hope and dream that candle is a seller.
But do the Charlie math. How many candles does it take to pay for the mold? And it's really not that
dozen
much.
Probably, or 10.
No, yeah. So, like, here's our rabbit one. You can see the rabbit ears. Small, like you compare it to the size of my hand. It's
right.
Small. This probably costs like $30-$35. We'd probably sell this $5-$6. So how many candles is that? 5-6 candles? It's not a lot. It's like a pound, 2 pounds of beeswax to pay for this.
Let me see. Only way. But the hairdryer helps. Yeah, mine have been sitting in my shed for a year, right? So 100 degrees in the damn summertime. So our rabbit once flopped. We sold 2.
That good to know. And once again, it's one of those fickle market ones. Maybe that was just a bad day. Maybe that's Greg's area. Maybe, I don't know what. And we have ones like that too. We've had some that sell at certain places, some that don't at all.
Must not be a band in town tonight, guys.
Oh, Charlie.
You got your ears lowered too. You got
Yeah.
You got those 2 hairs cut?
Yeah, I got the 2 hairs cut.
We've been talking about candles. Charlie, do you do candles?
Yeah, I know. Brian was doing some Charlie's B math.
That's right. That's right. Because I actually like that logic, Charlie. You're thinking about how much. I mean, this is an investment. When am I going to get my return on this investment? And when is that return going to turn into profit? I mean, that's business thinking.
My wife made another fatal error. I was sitting there waxing frames. I said, and I don't even have enough frames to do everything I need to do. She says, well, How much?
Just get some more.
Yeah, we'll just get some more. I can see the damn tractor trailer pulling up. What's that? Oh, it's my frames. They'll be out, the cardboard in the rain, boxes falling apart. I know a secret about James too, but I'm not going to tell it. He has to come on and tell it. This dude, he's got big dreams, and I like big dreams. So maybe I can get on. Cool. So
James 300. That's what that's going to be.
See, there you go. See, now you're giving it away before you get on.
Yeah, no. Blaine, I have not had time to watch your video. I seen it's what do you call it? The winner of that entrance reducer. But worked bees, and then I got phone calls from around the country.
I took one of my swarms and put it in that Vivor hive today, but just in a single brood chamber management right now.
That's right.
So, but what I did is I took the 5 that they were on and packed them in the center, and then put 5 freshly waxed foundations and frames on the outside. So
I won the
yeah, you won, Charlie. Yeah, you won that. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Bob, did you see my comment on your Man Lake opening video?
Oh, no.
I said Vivor packed there. Vivor could teach Man Lake a little something about packing a box.
I was kind of mad about that. I didn't put it in the video, but when you buy a treated, I paid the extra money to get the treated one. And Charlie didn't see it. Evidently, you don't know what I'm talking about.
It was one of them was broken or something like that.
It was broke. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to back the screws out because it looked like initially what happened is they overdrove the screws in and cracked it, and then the shipping with the other 5 in the box just finished it.
Call them back up and say, "Hey, send me another one."
You think they will?
Go
to my YouTube video. You see me unboxing it. It was not me.
If you don't believe me, you can watch my video.
Yeah, throw your influence around, Bob.
Yeah. You know what? I hit 2,400 subs.
Nice.
So, and from what I gather, Vivor is sending me an extractor to review, a motorized extractor. I don't know which one.
China or what?
Yeah, they suggested a two frame. I was like, yeah, the 4.8 would be better because my intention is to do the video for Vivor and then we're going to give it away on the channel. So if you need it, I swear to God, I will be upset if you got a 20 frame extractor and you're entering to win a 4 frame extractor when we got people in the chat that are spinning. Oh, you never answered any of my calls either, mister. And, we got guys with hand crank extractors, and you guys are entering to win the giveaway. That's no bueno. So, so here's what happened with the Bugman today. So, I'm on Facebook and someone in Charleston says, "Hey, there's a swarm of bees in my tree." And it was literally like probably 4 foot off the ground. And I sent him a picture with the phone number. I'm like, "Hey, you might want to go get these." Because it was only 15 minutes from the time they posted. He's like, "That's like an hour from me. And I'm in Charleston." So he said he called him, and then I didn't get back with them. I was just busy all day. You're dropping a new video tomorrow. Cool.
All right. Can I show you some candle stuff?
Please, sir.
So first, when I start, I clean all my beeswax. I filter everything, right? Even the stuff that looks clean, I'm going to do it one last time. And I like these kind of molds because if you pour it and you don't go too high, you'll get these nice little pieces,
Right.
right? And they separate really easily, and you don't have a big pound block, so
Now,
you can dial in.
when they cool, they're also going to pull off of the mold a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Make
Yep.
it easy to
Right.
pop
And
off.
if
Well,
and
First,
a little
first
pro
question
tip.
is, how do you
Yeah.
get your wax that clean?
Okay, I'll go back to that. Okay, because
All right.
I have to grab something for that.
Okay.
I forgot what I was going to say about this. Oh, we've also learned that sometimes people at markets just want just pure beeswax. So we talked about just bringing a couple of these to markets at a time, just selling them for like $4 or $5. Like people who have violins want to put wax on their bows, and just all strange reasons that people ask. So that's something we're going to do. This is the egg candle. So great for Easter, very decorative. Now, smart molds will do things like this. A mold has a seam. If you don't line up that seam, it's going to show. That's right. So a smart mold will put the seam along something like this to kind of hide it, right?
Right.
So this is one we got at Hive Life. Nice little spring, lavender, perfect for us. We grow lavender, but look how smooth it is. That's going to show a seam. See what I mean?
Do you use a mold release or something?
Never have. Never felt a need to. Never had a problem. Oh, here's my pro tip. If you're having a problem getting it out, just put it in the freezer. In fact, this is how my wife would make a whole bunch in one night. She'd pour them, let them sit and start to harden, and then put them in the freezer for 10 minutes. Beeswax actually contracts about 10% as it gets really cold, right? So that's a great way to get it to release from the mold as well. You need to have rubber bands to keep it nice and tight, but you don't want to put it too tight to warp the shape of the mold, right?
Right.
We've got, this was the rabbit one we were talking about. Thought that would be a good spring one. This one, it's just roses.
Yeah, but see, that one could be a Mother's Day thing. It could just be a decorative.
And it says love. Do you see it in cursive?
Oh, they don't teach cursive anymore. I can't read it. No, yeah, I can read it.
So, and the funny thing was, we didn't even know that was there. One of the customers picked it up and was like, "Oh my gosh, it says love." And we're like, "Really?" So yeah.
Next thing you'll be getting some of that paint that you can just paint gold or something on it.
Yeah.
Make it stand out and pop.
Here's our tiramisu. There's one of our logo stickers. And then the don't burn your house down, right? I think it's really important to put that on your candle sales just to kind of cover your ass kind of thing. It's a don't be a dumbass. It's a candle. Don't burn your house down kind of thing. We have learned that non-beekeepers don't know what a skep is. So I was like, yeah, let's sell skeps. No one knows what it is. So this one hasn't sold very well.
But the good thing about a candle that doesn't sell, you can melt it down. And
that's right. Yep. Or if you mess up, right? If it comes out no good, you can just melt it down and try it again. And then
I sell that size all the time.
You do candles too, Chris?
Yeah.
Nice. So we get $15 for these two because they're so darn cute. And then here's another good thing. Here's another great selling line to give. People are like, "Oh, I'm not going to want to burn that." Well, here's what you do then. You get one.
Buy 2 sets.
That's right. You buy one and you burn that one and you keep the other one. And there's ones that, there's a pine cone one in particular that we say, like it looks even cooler as it's melting because the shadows it throws off because of the shape of the candle makes it look really cool. So for our final processing, right, little chemistry. I don't even know what this is called.
Yeah, it holds the
it holds a Bunsen burner in a beaker.
Yeah,
right. So I actually have this because in distilling essential oils, I have a separatory funnel that gets smaller and smaller at the bottom with a little valve. So as I distill my lavender, I pour the product in here. It's got the water on bottom, the essential oil on top. I can let off the water and then stop it and then have the essential oil left.
When he's
So
just filling his CBD.
Lavender.
His CBD and his THC, separating them in his chemistry lab over there.
This has been one of the big gaps in my education. Like growing up, I never took a chemistry lab. I never took a biology lab.
I took biology, but I didn't take chemistry till college. So
paper towel, the best filter to get out what
I
you
have
want.
heard that.
that's what I use inside my solar wax melter. I put that along the stream. The wax gets in it. Now, that wax, that will harden in your solar wax melter. But you know what?
What?
You could probably, now this might be a stretch for some people, but you could take that paper towel and fold it up because it's got enough beeswax in it that you could sell that as a fire starter.
That's right. I've heard that.
For like preppers and stuff. They would, especially Colorado, they'd probably.
You take and roll it up.
That's what I've seen. I've seen people roll it up really nice, tie it in a string, and that I've seen people do that. I used to get my like heat gun and keep it going so it didn't harden. But then I learned that I have this thing called a solar wax melter. And all I do now is I take this and I got a big bucket in my garage that's waiting for summer to come around. And all of these paper towels with that wax left in it is going to go right into my solar wax melter. And I'm going to get all that out. So I'm just playing the long lazy game to getting the wax out of the paper towel.
And also, if you use a pot to separate like slum gum, then you can take that slum gum after you separated it and drop that on your solar wax melter, and it'll get even more wax out of it.
And for my wax that I gather throughout the year, I'm glad you talked about slum gum. I try to separate my clean wax from my not clean wax. So any of that wax I'm scraping off the top of frames, I'm saving as I'm going through the season, but I'll separate that out from my cappings wax just because you know how hard it's a lot easier to clean cappings wax than really dirty wax.
Yeah, I think that I have that solar wax melter, but I think, like you said, Bob, put that towel on that screen at the bottom, and it'll filter out the wax through the towel, into the water pot that I goes into, and then I guess I can really use. I have what do you call it? I usually use what is that stuff called? That cloth, cheesecloth.
Cheesecloth or crocus cloth.
Yeah, I put that in like a strainer, and then I have one of them hot pops with a valve on the side, and that's how I fill my tins up.
Well, what I found that helped me this last time, when I had brood comb that I was melting down, you got to do that in a pot, right? Or a roaster or whatever you're using.
I put all that kind of stuff in the wax melter.
Well, you'll get rid of all that slum gum out there in the wax melter. But I find that if you're not right on top of your game with your solar wax melter too, that it'll harden on your wax melter.
Oh, so yeah. I mean, you got to get out there when it's soft.
Well,
and then you got to scrape that crap off. I mean,
and when I did it, it was the cutout wax that was
like in a building
and
in the crawl space,
and it was too cold to use the solar wax melter at that time. So I put it in this pot and with water, right, melted it down. But then I took the 5-gallon paint strainer and poured that water and slum gum and everything right into the 5-gallon bucket, and then just pulled out the 5-gallon paint strainer. It caught all the cocoons and the trash. And then once I let that cool, then I took that disc and put that in the solar wax melter to melt it down into my block, to my bar, right?
Grammy's asking how many times I filter the wax. It depends on the quality of the wax when I get it. You know, if it's something like the pound blocks from Day Dant, they're pretty good. So I'll still filter them and just do that once. So it depends on the wax as much or
Well,
as
how about
little as
like
I need
your
to.
capping wax? Yeah, is that about one time?
Yeah, just once. And if it's still in the season, that's going through. No, that'll probably be twice because it'll go through my solar wax melter.
Yeah, that's what I do.
And then it'll go through the paper towel.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, I'm gonna
And
tell
then
you,
part of it too, when you're putting stuff through the solar wax melter, there's going to be a lot of honey in it as well. So that second process helps get some of that.
Now I'll
honey
tell you, you know
too.
what? I've gotten to the point where, you know, some lady, a friend of mine, she, well, don't you wash your wax? I said, no, I don't wash it off. I just take it out of the uncapping tank and I, you know, where it's kind of dry and put it in a 5-gallon bucket. Take that 5-gallon bucket, put it in the solar wax melter. There will be, like you say, honey in my water where it drips down from into the, and then I take the wax out of that. So this past summer, what I did was instead of dumping that water out on the ground, I'll take a lid.
yep,
And
I fed it back to him.
I'll pour that water in that, you know, lid and let the water go to one edge so they can walk down to it and drink it and get back out without drowning. And yeah, they'll take it right back to the hive.
Hey, Mark, tell her you need a Cowan decapper because that's the way to get the best quality wax.
Hey guys, can we help out Mark tonight? A couple days, maybe a week or two ago, Mark reached out to me and said he wants to learn how to make creamed honey. He said his wife is in. Can we do a creamed honey lesson tonight as well? Is that okay? You guys keep talking. I'll go grab some supplies and then I'll do the creamed honey.
Spent an hour with Mark tonight on the phone.
Are you talked to Mark today?
I had people call. I had Mark called me and Sean from up in Michigan I called him. He's coming to town.
Oh, Sean Gutierrez?
Huh?
Bowers?
Yeah,
Sean Bowers?
I don't know how you pronounce. You'll have to tell me how to pronounce his last name. Sean
Bowers.
Bauer Honey or something like that.
Bouters.
It looks French.
But I had Bouters. Yep. But I've had people starting to call me for queens that bought queens last year and need to buy queens again this year. But I stopped grafting. I've got to let my queens that I have now come back mated so I can move them, migrate them into colonies that need them, or then I can sell some. But right now,
make a road trip.
Yeah, make a road trip. Hey, you need 5? I can have them for you. Well, now it'd be next weekend before I could get down there. Everybody called me today to get in touch with Charlie. I feel like
yeah, Lee did. Yeah, I had another gal. She's sent me a picture of her hive, and it's all, you know, bearded. It was actually a swarm. She put it in a box underneath. And then this morning, it rained till noon at least 1 o'clock. And then the sun came out and the rain stopped and it got warm, like 70 degrees.
Today here.
And then I got back from taking a load of mulch and I jumped out there and got through them nukes to see what, you know, hadn't been in them at all. And I went through all of them and the wind started picking up.
James, I can help you out, buddy. Just make sure you don't have any queens in your starter and you'll be fine. Make sure you got a ton of bees. If you think you have enough bees, shake more bees and you'll be good.
So I took I went through all my nukes, graded them, you know, for sale. So I got 10 of them that I can sell. I've already got 8 sold. And
Well, last I heard,
that last 10 frame hive that I went into on Tuesday night, it had a lot of bees in it. And is it Russ Koopman?
Yeah, Russ Koopman.
Yeah, he suggested I had put an additional super on that one hive I did in the video, which maybe tomorrow, if the decent if the weather calms down, it's windy as all get at, like 40, 50 mile an hour winds out there. Well, anyway, there was the last hive that I did Tuesday night. It was the only one that had a queen cell in, and so I checked it just before this storm was hitting, and they had at least a half-inch worth of bees stuck to the inner cover when you raise that up, and then and you have 2 honey supers in there. It's just packed with bees. So I had brought out some more honey super. I said, okay, it's getting another super. So I threw that on there, and then I buttoned everything up with ratchet straps and put everything away just in the nick of time before the darn rain hit. And I got your wind now, Brian. It's out here blowing like crazy. I mean, it's howling.
It was amazing. It was like gone in a half an hour. Like it was awful all day.
Well, it's still out there right now, but it ain't no rain. It's just all wind. It was raining, and yesterday they said all this wind was coming in, so I had blocked up all my major big doors and stuff and barricaded them so they had support against the wind. So I'm glad I didn't take them down today, because I said, well, this is it's a beautiful day. And just a little bit of rain this morning. And then this stuff, I got another phone call from another beekeeper right up the road. And he said there's supposed to be a big storm coming in tonight. I said, really? I haven't heard that, but sure did. All right. Go ahead to talk about.
All right. Creamed honey.
Talking. There you go.
All right.
You got full screen.
Creamed honey is a manipulation of the crystallization process. Okay. So you actually start with a seed, creamed honey. This is our seed for next year. It can be any creamed honey. It can be your creamed honey. It can be store-bought creamed honey. It can be creamed honey that you make from crystallized honey. To make crystallized honey, super fine granules, you're going to need a mortar and pestle. So you can take a jar of crystallized honey, put it in here, and ground it and ground it and ground it till it looks really smooth. And then what I recommend you do is ground it some more, because you're making your seed. You're making those crystals really small, just like hail that needs a catalyst of dust to build around. The crystals in honey need some sort of catalyst, whether it be pollen or a small, fine crystallized honey already. So you can, and that's how actually we did it as purists. We wanted to use our own honey. We took some of our honey that crystallized, we ground it up, and that was our seed. Okay. But like I said, you can use a seed from a grocery store. You can go and buy the best creamed honey that you found, and you can make that as your seed. Now, I'm going to talk about different scales as well, so you don't have to make it in the biggest scale that I've been doing. So you take your seed or your crystallized honey, you make that seed, and then you're going to want to build it, right? That seed is what you build the crystal. Yeah, for hours and hours. That's right, Lee. Put on a really good stream and just sit there the whole night and ground it up. Absolutely. You want it as fine as it can be. So once it's as fine as it can be into here, I'm going to move it to a larger vessel. Maybe something like this. This is a 8-cup measuring cup. And what I'll do is I'll put the creamed honey into there. And then the ratio they say is 10 to 1. 10 parts liquid to 1 part creamed honey. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to add that liquid honey into the cream honey, and you're going to mix it up. So that liquid honey is using the creamed honey as the catalyst to crystallize on this micro fine level. So we tell our customers this honey is never going to crystallize because it already is. So it makes it smooth and silky, so small you can't even taste the sugar granules. So once or twice a day, I'll stir it up, I'll mix it all up, and I'll have a aluminum foil on top of this to make sure all the cat hair and dust doesn't get into it and that kind of thing. The ideal temperature for honey to crystallize is 57 degrees. We've never really done that though. We've found that our room temperature has been good enough to help it crystallize. I will say though, like in the middle of the summer is not really a great time to make creamed honey, especially if you're selling it at markets. You can't take creamed honey to a market on a 90-degree day because it's going to start to liquefy on your table there. So we've found that, starting August, that's when we'll start our seed. We'll start building it up to get to start selling our creamed honey when the temperature starts going down. Great fall product, great winter product. So we'll build it up, and you can build it up faster by reducing that ratio. Right? So if it were to get to this high, then if I fill up the entire cup, that's obviously a way less than 10-to-1 ratio. It's going to crystallize a whole lot faster. From here, I'm going to put it in a 5-gallon bucket and then repeat that same process, adding. And then the cool thing is, once you get it, like this is quite a bit already. It's not going to take it too long to get to a gallon. Then what I like to do is get it up to 3 gallons. And you're probably wondering how I'm going to mix it in a 5-gallon bucket. I have a low torque mortar drill. It's got to be low torque or you're going to break your wrist as you're trying to do it. Now this is what I use for making syrup. I'm making syrup right now. But typically from Better Bee, they have these long screw attachments that you can make creamed honey with. I have different ones for my different flavors. So all I have to do is leave this in my bucket and detach my drill and then move it from bucket to bucket. So I can make 3 different flavors simultaneously without having to clean off my drill bit constantly. That saves me a lot of time. That allows me to make different batches simultaneously. Now, a couple things to be concerned about with creamed honey. We have the benefit here of having really dry honey. Our moisture content is never really an issue. When honey crystallizes, it actually releases water from those crystals or from the honey. So it's like if you've ever seen a jar of honey crystallize, it starts to separate and one part kind of looks watery and one part can kind of look crystally. So it can increase your humidity or your temperature, your water content in your honey a little bit. So start with a low humidity honey. Also, lighter honeys tend to crystallize well. The darker honeys tend to get a little harder. Now, there's a couple, like I went right to the 5-gallon bucket. You don't have to make that much. You could make a little batch this big and stop there. You can then move it into one of those Cuisinart things that makes a slightly larger batch. Or I know Mark's got that Hobart thing that he got from that school. That would be great for making creamed honey as well.
Now, the creamed honey will never be... Now, I know there's a lot of steps, but it seems to me that the key to a good creamed honey is making sure you take the time with the starter, because it'll never be better than what your starter was.
That's right. But there's lots of other places where it can fall apart along the process as well. But absolutely, you have to make sure that's because everything builds off of that. It's like a foundation of a house. If your foundation sucks, the whole house is going to struggle as well. Yeah, Lee's got the right phrase, that low moisture honey. So going back to the bucket, though, I like to bring it up to 3 gallons and no more than that, because then it gets really hard to mix with the hand drill. And then what I'll do, and this is the beautiful part about it, you have to jar it before it gets too thick, right? Because then it'll be impossible to jar. I jar it down to the top of the gate. So that leaves about a gallon left in the bucket for me to just start back over again. So I can take that gallon left there, put 2 more gallons into it, and a week later, I got 2 more gallons of creamed honey that I can jar. You can add different powdered products into it. We add cinnamon, we add cacao. We do something in our town called cider days, and we're going to do an apple cinnamon creamed honey just for cider days, like a special batch kind of thing. You can do dehydrated fruits in powder form to add to that creamed honey. Now, every state has different laws around how you can sell honey and what types of honey you can sell. Our Cottage Food Act, cacao is chocolate, cacao. Sorry, I was saying different states have different rules for what kinds of honey you can sell and what you can't under certain rules. Like for us, I think it was Texas, I heard that you couldn't add anything, no additives into honey under their laws or something like that. We don't have that kind of oversight. I don't recommend adding any sort of fruits that have moisture because it's gonna, I think we talked about this with infused honeys too. It could ferment kind of thing. Yeah, cacao is chocolate, absolutely.
You could do like in the fall, you could do pumpkin spice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Now there's a process called the dice method, and the dice method actually takes your honey up to about, I think it's around 140 degrees just for a couple of minutes and then drops it down with the idea of pasteurizing it. So like if the moisture content gets too high, it can't ferment, or like I'm not actually sure. We've never done that because our honey is so low moisture content already that it's never been necessary. I do know a lot of you guys live in the East Coast, which does have a lot of humidity. So that might be something you want to think about. Yeah, so I see Greg saying you can't have any additives in Kentucky. Matt and Sarah are saying we can in a licensed kitchen. Yeah, we have in Colorado Cottage Food Act, which allows us to do a certain amount of things up to a certain dollar amount. And if I broach that dollar amount, or if I wanted to sell in stores, I would have to get a commercial license and go through a commercial kitchen, that kind of thing too. What do you call low? 15%, 15, 16% should be just fine, Michael.
What would be the upper limit, do you think?
I don't know, because my honey usually isn't there. I've never had problems with it, so I wouldn't be the best person to answer that question.
Mine's usually like 16 and a half.
That should be fine. I wouldn't use any liquid fruit extracts. I've never done that, Grammy, so I'm not sure what to recommend for that. I would, if I was going to make it fruit flavored, I would add a powdered, kind of like a dehydrated fruit. There you go. James says no higher than 18%. Thank you. Creamed honey can be a hard sell if people don't know what it is, but we have the benefit of selling at markets, and we offer up tasters. And sometimes we'll do like, you want to try the flight, because we'll have like 4 different honeys out there, and we'll just walk people right down the whole line. And usually if they've tried 4 honeys, they walk away with a jar in their bag. Creamed honey sells really well when people taste it. So it does require a little bit of education. Creamed honey is a confusing name because a lot of people assume, because of the color, you see how it lightens, people think that there's some sort of dairy product added to it, right?
Yep.
And that's how I start my spiel. This honey, like right next to my liquid honey, no different ingredients, nothing added. I've just manipulated the crystallization process to make it smooth and creamy, nice and spreadable, great for sandwiches, great for a croissant, great for a biscuit, English muffin, that kind of thing.
You could even take you out a little toaster oven, toast you up some bagels, spread up.
There you go. Yeah, now Lee, a buddy of mine, just made a peanut butter cocoa creamed honey. Think about that one. So powdered peanut butter with that cacao. And I know, Bob, we've talked about this as well. Certain buzzwords can kind of speak to certain customers. So you can't call your honey organic. You can't do that legally.
All natural.
But you can say this, Bob. Our creamed honey has organic Ceylon cinnamon inside of it. So I've let some other company jump through all those hoops to get the organic label on it. And because that product is in mine, I just say creamed honey with organic.
Right.
Cinnamon. So
you're not implying anything other than that ingredient in your honey is organic.
That's right. And people see organic.
Well, yeah, I got you. I'm picking up what you're putting down, mister.
It's a buzzword, right?
Yeah, so we at our state fair, we would have to say, like you say, I'm allergic to dairy, because it's, creamed honey. So now we call it's honey spread.
Honey spread, yeah. And my wife and I actually debated, should we call it whipped honey? Should we call it creamed honey? And it seems like in parts of the country, there's different definitions. Like I remember someone talking about whipped honey being almost really different in consistency in one of the streams.
Yeah, whipped honey, from it's where you just keep take that Hobart mixer and you just keep whipping it to where I don't think you put crystallize in it at all. I think you just take honey itself and keep mixing it.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how that works, where it just whips it into a cream.
Whipping is the process of adding air to your product. So where you're doing crystallization and changing the composition of it, all you're really doing with whip honey is infusing it with air, right?
Okay.
Which is puffing it up. That's why whipped cream is fluffier, right? It's cream that's just got so much air whipped in it that it's changed its form.
So is whipped honey fluffy like that?
Is it? I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think is it? It's not like a topping. It's still like creamed honey, right?
Yeah. So we have Lee saying mix on high. I think that might be for the whipped. And then DC's saying it would be kind of like a frosting.
Now I feel official. Grammy validated my statement.
And then Carl says you mix the hell out of it, and like Bob says, right.
Yeah, and I think you're going to find if you get into it, different honeys will respond differently. Like once we tried a darker honey and it just got rock solid. So we actually ended up, I still have it. We had a case of the honey for a year that sat in our garage. I didn't know what to do with it, so I melted it down. So that's what I have left. But we've been making our honey caramels out of that. So I was like, it's perfectly good honey. It was just rock solid in that cream state. So we just liquefied it and then make caramels because you're heating it up to make caramels anyway. So it doesn't matter. All right. So that's it. That's creamed honey.
Michael said it's a little gritty. Maybe I didn't do it right.
Yeah. And then a lot of the powder, if you put the powder in, that sometimes will settle to the top over time. So more cream than regular.
Yeah, as far as the creamed honey being gritty, that goes back to your starter, I think.
So right here. Yep.
Yeah.
That mortar and pestle.
Now, one of our members in our club does creamed honey, but she, like you said, she buys the starter from, I think, Better Be.
Yeah, there's like a powdered starter or something like that. I
don't know about whether it's powdered or what it is, but it's.
I don't buy starter creamed honey just like you'd buy it from your store, you know.
Yeah. But I have a friend of mine, Charlie, who bought the powdered cream starter. I don't know if it was for Better Be. They usually buy from Desdance, so it might have been from them. But they also said they didn't like it. So does your Lyson creamer take place of the drill? Yes, it does. So although that has worked me really well, that automation is going to allow me to make a lot of creamed honey. And then I kind of imagine, Bob, I kind of got this idea from you. I can make a giant batch in the 18-gallon and then divide it into 3 different 5-gallon buckets and add flavor from there. So I can still yeah, exactly. That was your creamed honey store idea. Do you remember that one?
Right.
So that's where I was like, I could take that idea.
You just think about it. If you could just think about this, if you had you know how you got the froyo places, right, where you mix your yogurts and then you come in and you add your toppings in. If you could do that with honeys, hey, you've got all this honey. You could pump your honey and add whatever flavors you want to your honey. Whatever flavor you want to your creamed honey. You just and hit it with the thing and blend it, put a cap on it. There you go. Now you're selling it by the pound, right? It would be like a one-stop honey extravaganza. All kinds of honeys from all over the place. Plus you can flavor your honey to your flavor, that you want. Oh, you want it to taste like peanut butter? Great. Bam. PB Blast. Bam. Whatever you want, we can do it.
You do like a peanut butter and jelly. That'd be fun. Peanut butter and jelly creamed honey.
Oh,
that sounds good.
We got someone at the customs checkpoint right now. Yeah. Well, hey, as long as you would have to control the moisture. I'm sure there's a way to do it though. It's just got to be really. Oh, he dropped out. That's how.
Couldn't pass security.
My hot honey. It's still just as thick as it was when I put it in the bottle, and not crystallized. And I use some basic science behind that. Which, when you use the peppers, it raises you could think of it the same way as your creamed honey. So you're making a small batch, right? You're infusing it with your heat from fresh peppers, which draws the moisture and capsaicin out of the peppers. Now you have a small amount of an extremely high moisture content honey. So now that's your starter. Now you're adding the fresh honey to it that has a low moisture content, and you're distributing that moisture over the whole batch and averaging it out. No, you don't get the same flavor out of a dehydrated pepper as you do as a fresh pepper, in my opinion.
Last year, I think I got this idea from Gus Mitchell. I used some that were dried and some that were fresh for that balance. Like the ones that I wanted a lot of the fruity flavor from the pepper, I would do like kind of semi fresh, and then the ones that I just wanted the heat, I would dry completely. Carl, I'm glad you came on. I saw your comment about creamed honey. Tell us about your experiences.
Well, the first year that I started this 4 years ago, I was intrigued by it. So first year I was very lucky. I got about 120 pounds. So we took about 2 gallons, which was almost half of what we got. And my wife said she wanted to make it. So she made creamed honey. How we made it was, there was a Tractor Supply has a company out of New York that's a large bee farm that had their own creamed honey on the shelf. It was, at the time, I think it was $8 a pound. So I kind of read up on it, YouTube and online and that. So I grabbed 4 jars of it and we mixed it in, and she mixed it from there. And we started out just with cinnamon creamed honey. And Brian, you're talking about mixing? Right there is how we mixed it.
So are you using something about this big for that, or bigger?
Nope. Actually, we just pretty much, the first time we did it, we took a gallon and a half. It was just a throw together the first year, and we threw in like 4 jars and we mixed it. We kept it downstairs in the cellar here in PA, and our cellar, if the wood burner is not going, it's it's 60 degrees, you know.
And that's perfect temperature.
Yeah, and it actually, and it was kind of funny because it worked out perfect for us, and we gave away most of that first year. The next year, she stole pretty much half of our honey, and she made vanilla and cinnamon. And here's the killer was I like to do things all natural, like you were talking, and we're using vanilla beans. Well, you can't do that when you're making vanilla creamed honey. You'll go broke. I mean, or you'll have to charge $25 a jar for a 10-ounce jar. So we spent a lot of money doing that, and it was delicious. But the other thing is, my wife is making all the cinnamon honey, and I'm allergic to cinnamon. and she's using my drill.
She's trying to tell you something, Carl.
Yeah.
We lose. He's not muted, but
yeah, I can't hear him either.
We got the loop.
Carl, we can't hear you.
He can't hear us either.
And then he was talking about the cinnamon.
All right, hold
You
on.
there's an echo.
Yeah, James is echoing.
We got the vanilla too, but we haven't used them. Is it James?
Yeah, it was James.
So that'll be our plan. Hold on, I gotta say goodbye.
Carl, we can't hear you.
Thanks for coming by. See you soon. I'm sorry I wasn't very good company.
I don't know why your mic stopped all of a sudden. There you go. I'm excited when James comes on here because I know I got all the dirt on what he's been doing, but I don't know what he wants to share and what he doesn't. And so yeah, I haven't, man. See, now it's like if I want to do creamed honey, I either have to do it with the drill, like you're talking about, or I gotta spend $1,000. Oh, look who we got here.
We made quite a bit of creamed honey with that 5-gallon bucket and a $70 mortar drill, Bob. We paid for that drill really quick, so I would definitely recommend starting there.
But I've never seen creamed honey in the stores here.
Yeah.
Or anything. So
that's why I wouldn't invest in the big equipment.
So it's like it would definitely be a teachable moment. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And hey, Brad.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
You doing okay?
Doing all right. Can't stay long.
Do you make creamed honey, Brad?
Heard it. Well, I sell creamed honey. I have all my packing done by a small packing plant in the area. He creams all my honey. Well, the honey that I cream. So yeah, he'll cream it 500 pounds at a time is what he does. So it's a really, really nice product too. And his bread and butter is flavored honeys. So he has more than 24 flavors of honey, and he's just the absolute best at flavored honey around these parts.
So you guys, do you have special laws when you put additives in your honey, or do you have to get a special license or something to do it there?
Well, yeah, everything has to be. There's definitely rules, of course. Ingredients rules, and there's I think Health Canada needs to approve every product, and of course you need to respect moisture content as we've covered. So that's probably one of the trickiest ones, is that moisture content, because a lot of stuff you're going to be doing is maybe fruit based or something like that. So there's going to be a lot of moisture involved. You're doing cinnamon. Cinnamon is just cinnamon. It's easy.
Yeah, that's why I like the powdered ingredient additives, because like like freeze dried blueberries. That's going to be all powdered. That's going to have all the moisture content come out of it. So that feels pretty safe
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, and you've still got an actual fruit product there, not just a flavoring of some kind.
That's
So
right.
that's really
Yep.
nice. Yeah. Yeah. I've mucked around at home here just with some powdered peanut butter, making peanut butter and honey, and that's an interesting product. I didn't master the ratios on it. The batch I made set up far too hard to be used, but it was really delicious for sure.
Now, how do you stop it from setting up so hard? Is there?
I don't know.
Is
I
there?
didn't continue with it. I think it's probably mostly ratios. I don't know, Brian. Do you have experience with peanut?
My only
powdered peanut butter?
experience has been the one time where I had the darker honey get really hard on me. So I do know that some honeys do better than others. I know Linden honey makes a really good creamed honey, and the light honeys in particular, I've heard, make better creamed honeys. And I don't know why that is.
Yeah, it has a lot to do with moisture content.
Okay.
Some of the canola honeys we have here, they can get very dry. You can harvest canola honey at 14%, and that creams well, but it can set quite firm, a little too firm for most people. Sometimes I'll take honey to my packer, and he'll go to cream it, and it'll be a little bit on the high side, and he'll just have to dump a whole lot more starter in it to make it cream up. But he always manages. He's good at what he does.
Do you have a favorite of his flavored honeys?
Honestly, being diabetic, I don't even eat my own honey.
Gotcha. How about your wife?
I certainly
Does she
haven't
have a
tried every
flavor?
one of his flavors.
Does your wife have a favorite?
Yeah, what would be her favorites?
I got Brad doing research.
She's thinking. She's across the room. She's thinking.
I always like to get the male and the female perspectives, because
Sorry, I come in here in my work shirt. I look terrible. She's thinking about it.
Gotcha.
We actually don't consume very much honey at all. We're terrible honey customers.
I always like to get the
that's okay,
female
we can sell
perspectives
more.
because that's like the bulk of our customers at the market. I would say 2/3 of our customers are female.
Is that lemon? Yeah, she likes lemon. She likes
Lemon
almost anything
cream.
lemon. Lemon is really her flavor.
Yeah, now lemon's one where
so-
you can
and-
add lemon essential oil. So some essential oils are edible, some aren't, and lemon essential oil is one of those. So oftentimes lemon
Yeah,
creamed honey
yeah.
is just made by creamed honey plus lemon essential oil.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he uses any. Certainly for things like citrus, he doesn't use any. It's actually the fruit kind of
Okay.
thing. So I don't know exactly, but that's his kind of statement of quality, that his honeys are not just infusions, that they have actual fruit and citrus in them.
I like
And
that statement.
that's the trick.
Yep.
Yeah. And he says that in a 375 gram jar of honey, he states that there's basically one lemon in that jar. And I can say that I have tasted the creamed lemon, and it's quite lemony. Very nice for a cup of tea. Spoon that in. 375 grams. 454 grams is a pound. So you're talking 3/4 of a pound. Probably,
12
probably
ounces.
10 ounces or something. Or no, 8. Yeah, that'd be 10 ounces or so. I can almost talk ounces and pounds.
Almost.
That's been really important for us. Our Cottage Food Act tells us we can sell up to $10,000 of each honey item. That's part of what got us into the diversification of our honey products, because I can sell $10,000 worth of creamed honey, $10,000 worth of cinnamon creamed honey, $10,000 worth of apple cinnamon. If it's a different product, I can cap off at $10,000 for each product. And then the other issue was, so it's very friendly to us. And then the other issue is our honey crystallizes so quickly naturally. I figured I'd just work with it instead of fighting it. So
absolutely, and that's chiefly why the vast majority of honey on the shelf here is creamed honey, because the vast majority is canola honey, and it won't stay liquid.
Yeah.
What
And we
kind
do a
honey
lot
is
of
that,
educating.
that you have?
Go ahead, Brad. Sorry.
The honey that crystallizes for you, what's the nectar source on that?
Mostly linden. I live in a metropolitan area, so it's all wildflower from mostly the trees around here, but it's very heavy linden influence. So we try to educate our customers a lot on that, crystallized honey is not bad honey. In fact, it's an evidence of raw honey, raw unfiltered honey. So it does require a lot of education. So we spend some time reliquefying honey to bring to market, and we spend a lot of time educating our customers with tastes. We have a tasting station at every single market, and that's part of what sells our honey. And then we have markets where we see people come back regularly. We live in a city called Lakewood here, and we do like 3 or 4 events that is put on here, and we see the same people coming back, and they buy our products over and over again.
If you have a tasting, do you obviously how do you get around with the health department?
We've had no inspectors come, and I mean, we're at a farmer's market anyway, so everyone's offering taste. We've had one event, Charlie. We've had one event where the girl putting it on said, the health inspector's here, you might want to put your tasting station away. And that was it. That's the only time. I've never had any other problems. And that wasn't even really a problem. We didn't even see anybody. There's people at our markets offering tastes all the time.
Yeah, around
never
here,
been a problem.
there was I don't know what it was about, giving out samples, man, they'll set you down in a heartbeat and all. But then a friend of mine that does like the tastings at the state fair, there's a permit thing that they get to do that, some kind of multiple permit type stuff.
We can do sampling. There's some basic handling requirements for doing sampling.
Yeah, we have a little teeny sample spoons and stuff and all that.
Yeah, we actually have to have a vessel of some kind. You have to take a spoon. You have to take it from the container into the vessel. We just use those little paper cups that you get your pills in at the hospital, and then give them the spoon and all. To that's just the rule. It has to be in that. You can't just take a spoon, dip it out, and say, "Here, take this." It
no, I mean, as far as if it's a squeeze bottle, type of thing.
I like Lee's idea. Well, sure. He has those squeeze bottles that are kind of like ketchup bottles that he just puts honey in. I think that's really handy. Our honey just won't. We'll have to constantly liquefy it in a plastic bottle, which I don't want to do to do that.
Yeah.
I will say this though, farmer hands do not make great serving hands, right? So if you're going to have dirty fingernail hands, maybe have your wife do the sampling. Yeah. I've learned that one.
Yeah.
Or gloves. Like my wife
typically has done all the sampling at our markets.
This is our other one.
Not because she likes it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I saw a video today. There was a guy out west here that took his bees out of his barn, and he had pretty good experience, I think, and I think he looked a lot like this guy over here. So I think maybe we should ask him about that. What do you think?
I don't know how much he's going to divulge. He'll say, I got a video coming out, so just wait for the video.
There is a couple of videos coming out, but one of the things
if you just want to leave it for that, then we'll keep talking about farmers markets and cream honey.
I was going to say I'm fighting some interesting problems this year, so I had to reach out to that guy because I'm dealing with some problems that I've never had to deal with before.
Good problems.
You poor bugger, your bees are too strong.
Yeah, good problems. Yeah, nice.
I wish I had those problems.
Well, yeah, I will share a little bit, but not a whole bunch. Like I say, the video and stuff like that will be coming out. But one thing I can tell you is I'm sitting at about a 2% loss out of my bee barn this year. So I'm extremely, extremely happy with that. In fact, I lost 3 colonies is all I lost. And the 3 that I lost, I was I was tempted not to even put them into the bee barn last fall. You know, they were that weak. So those are the only 3 that I lost. So very, very interesting. It's going to be a very interesting year. It is.
But you made another purchase too. Do you want to talk about that, or you can talk about that on the video too?
No, I can say that. So looking at with some of the things that I'm going to have to deal with, I did purchase another rather large lot of frames. Let's put it that way. Yeah. So remember, I was saying I was pretty darn adamant about working as hard as I did all winter here, because I was not going to be short on equipment this year. I don't know.
Famous last words, huh?
Oh,
Hashtag James 400.
I've like I said, I spent all day. My hands are just, but I spent all day in the bee yard, and like I say, you really have to watch the videos, because I don't know. I can honestly say I've never had issues like this before. So
You need to take a road trip, come down here and get some drawn comb.
you know, I just might take you up on that. I really am going to be in a little bit of a pickle here. I did, however, drop a video. I did drop a video there just before the live chat started of day 1 out in the bee yard. So that was a very interesting. I will talk about that video because it's already out there. But I actually took a GoPro. I took one of my GoPros too, and I put it down there, and that's an interesting one to watch as well, because I linked it to the temperature. So every time the temperature would go up a degree, it would tag it in the video, and it was interesting to see, because these bees were coming out even below 0. They were coming out a little bit, but as it got up to 2, 3, 4, 5 degrees, they just flooded out of that front door. And if I actually walked back because of the how do you put this, the shit show that was going on. I walked back probably 100 yards. Yeah, about 100 yards back from the apiary. And have you ever seen a mirage, over the desert? That's what it looked like for about, I'm going to say 40 feet above my apiary. It just looked like everything was just a blur and a mirage. And you didn't, until you looked really close, you didn't understand that was just bees. And it literally, you'll see on the video, you'll see, it changed the color of the snow for probably, I'm going to say 100 yards around the apiary. Just absolutely incredible. It was an amazing experience to be there in amongst all those bees just flying around. Now, my white truck needs to be washed. my bee suits, they all need to be washed. Pretty much anything within about.
Because think as yellow as that snow is, that exact same thing goes across the entire apiary. You just can't see it because there's no snow.
Yeah,
so everything is covered with that yellow slime. Well,
and you'll be able to see it on my next video, of which it'll upload probably sometime this week. But the boxes are literally covered. It was supposed to rain last night, so that would have been absolutely perfect. But it didn't. So we got up to, what did we get up to? I think it got up to like 9 degrees, +9, or in fact, I was just in my bee suit. I had no coat or anything like that on underneath, and I was actually cooking. That nice new coat that I bought, that Ultra Breeze coat I bought, I ended up having to give it to Alan because he showed up without a bee coat. So I was back in my flow suit that Brad loves so much. Yeah, it's yellow. It's kind of it's kind of a camouflage right now.
It used to be a white suit. Now it's a khaki suit. Eh?
It's exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, like I say, watch the video because yeah, I really don't know what to do. Beekeeping. There's always a problem, right?
Well, you got some honey frames from last year, don't you?
I do. I'm gonna have to use all of those, I think. And in
Use them
fact,
up, man.
what's that?
Use them up.
Oh,
That's what they're for.
absolutely. I'm gonna have to use all those up. And in fact, I spent a bit of time out in the woodshed there today too. I'm going to make I painted up 100 frames. I'm going to make them a storyboard and drop those in there too. That's going to allow me to pull a frame out of the bottom. I'm going to be extremely creative. I'm thinking for the next 2-3 months.
That's the
waxed up
new
frames.
beekeeper's struggle is no drawn comb. That's the struggle.
But you never have that. You never have enough. If you're expanding, you're never going to, until you get to that point to where you've reached whatever your target goal is on colonies, you never have enough.
Well, I don't. There's a lot of variables. I have enough drawn comb a lot easier than some people because I run all deeps. So any frame goes anywhere. I'll run my honey supers in the summer, and then the next season I've got all that honeycomb that they drew on the honey flow. It goes right in the bird chamber. Now, if you're running mediums for honey, that's a different story. You don't have that nice source of drawn comb, perhaps, and maybe you need to run some deeps for honey along with your mediums so that you can get drawn comb. And I'm going to draw a couple boxes of drawn comb or comb on the honey flow every year. So that means I can put up with moderate expansion the next season. So I could probably double after a season and use up one of the 3 boxes of honeycomb that I have on each colony. I can use one of those boxes as a new box, but I still have to have that second. I still have to have that second for swarm season to keep them from swarming. So there's the second one, right? So there's a lot of variables. So you're right. I wouldn't say that it's any expansion is.
Well, there's James doesn't even have the advantage of taking the comb from his dead outs to reuse.
Yeah,
that's the beauty about dead outs, man. You get all the drawn comb you could possibly need.
And so I had 3 hives that didn't make it through. 2 of those were a 6-frame nuke, and one was a 10 frame. That's the only ones that did not make it out. And I think if you guys remember last fall, I had mentioned I'd put a couple small 6-framers in that I was 99% sure that this was going to be the outcome of them. But so I mean, what have I got? I've got 10. I got 22. I got 22 spare frames. But here's something. So that guy right there. Remember last fall I put these things into bed, or I put them into the barn with what I called my insurance on top of them. So I put a medium super on top of my my single brood chain management. But
it's a brood chamber. If it's not a honey super, it's a brood chamber.
Bless you, Charlie. But anyways, Brad kept telling me, you know what? It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. So I needed that medium super on there, but I don't need it for the feed. You'll have to watch the video. So I definitely needed the super, that medium super, but I did not need the feed.
So
that's clickbait, James.
I'm going to ask it, since we've talked about outlaw James McNally in the wild west of beekeeping in CO2 treatments on the bees for Varroa.
Well, that's still out. I haven't done a mite shake on it yet. That I'll be doing probably this week before they start to brood up. So I'm going to be doing, and I'm going to do a mite shake on every hive. So I've got 75 hives that I'm going to go do. I'm going to take a cup of bees from every hive.
Well, and I'm going to poke the bear. So if the average person is losing, I don't know what the average loss last year was, what, 50 to 80%, some guys, right? Is that what they were saying in Manitoba as far as colony losses, Brad?
Well, last year, yeah, I think it was 55. That pushed the average up a bit, but typically the average Manitoba is about 25.
So if it's 25% and you're shooting 2%, that's a 23% different in colony loss. And let's just say, well, I'm just going to say that you could assume that helped some. So there
Possibly, I haven't done a mite shake yet. So, like I said, until I do that shake, I'm not going to say one way or the other, right? Well, you'll have to watch the video.
And Varroa is your biggest enemy, but there are so many variables. There's so many things that can cause that loss. So yeah, generally around here, if you're pulling in less than 10%, you're
Bob's your
doing
uncle.
really well. Oh, Bob's your uncle for sure. Fanny's your aunt too. But
yeah, but no, like I said, it's I'm extremely happy with what I'm seeing so far.
I'm watching your apiary all a buzzing. I'm jealous. I probably going to be Friday before I move out. Good Friday. I get to move out on Good Friday.
Oh, that's one of the things
I've done
really
that before.
us. We've had absolutely perfect weather. I mean, I'm on call this weekend, so I was forced to move them out. Thursday night basically, and then by Tuesday, Wednesday, we're supposed to be 14 to 18 degrees, with the nighttime lows are going to be staying around 4 or 5 degrees. So, I've got absolutely perfect weather.
Michael Buck is asking if there's insurance on bee stock in Manitoba, and you can buy insurance on overwintered bees. If you run 50 colonies or more, you can insure them.
Yeah, in
loss.
Alberta, they want 100 colonies before you can insure them.
Yeah.
But I bet you that's probably a pricey insurance.
It's not really all that pricey. I think it's like $4.50 per. But it's a good program. I don't want to disparage the program. It's a good program. You need to have a serious loss before you're going to get any assistance. And so it really is disaster insurance. It's not any kind of equalization. It's not going to make your bad
can't
years.
Say, hey, I lost 10 colonies this year. Pay me, right?
No, you got to lose. You got to lose 30, 40% before you start getting into having a claim.
So.
Gentlemen, I'm going to keep listening, but I'm going to sign off. I got some chores I need to do tonight. Good chatting, you all.
Yeah, I've got wax in the melter right now.
Have a good night, Brian.
Good night, Brian.
Yeah, you too, guys.
Nice to see you.
Yeah.
Right. So I had something interesting. I went out and worked I was grabbing frames and scraping them so I could re-wax them, right? And then it started raining. But after the rain, when I was bringing those said boxes of frames over to the back door so I could carry them in to wax them one at a time, big ass snake on my back step going into the house. And it was a little surprising.
A big ass snake. That's a funny looking snake, eh?
It had a big ass.
Usually they're kind of pointy on the back. Snake with a big ass. I gotta see that.
I didn't get a picture of it. It saw me coming and it went around the house. I was just trying to make sure it didn't go like in the crawl space of the house.
Saw you
Is it a
coming and drag
black
its
snake?
big ass
Or-
around
Yeah,
the
it was a
corner.
black snake. But when you're not expecting any snake and you look down and there's a snake right there at your feet, you're like, oh, there you go.
Better seeing a bear come around the corner.
Yeah, I don't have those yet.
That'll send you home.
Got coyotes and everything else, but I haven't seen any bears.
Well,
down
that
here.
happened to me. You come
We got
whistling down
alligators.
through the yard, and you come behind a building, and there's a bear standing right there. Dude,
The
you just keep going.
well, I can't talk about what James did today, or because it's in the video, and you got to go watch the video.
I'll tell you all about my upcoming videos. I don't care. It's just that they're not very interesting. It's
Well,
just
you've
me
been going
pushing wood through the saw.
still sawing stuff. I've seen your videos come up, but it says like vlog for like the whole week, right? It's
Yeah.
like a whole
Yeah.
week video.
Yeah.
And
I haven't been doing very many of those because there's not much going on. It's just me pushing lumber through the saw in the wood shop. It's not very interesting. But I'm assembling now, so I got a little bit on that. It's also not very interesting, but I've started assembling pallets now. I don't know how many I have. 20.
I was watching the one
30.
video, Brad. What you say, was it your car or truck broke down in town someplace?
Oh, I've had, yeah. Well, my latest adventure was the water pump went out on my diesel truck, 30 miles from home, and got it into a parts store parking lot. And I sat in the park store parking lot, and I changed the water pump on my truck. And so I was there for
that's
a couple hours.
That's extensive.
Well, yeah, you would think anybody who's changed the water pump on a vehicle would think, wow, that's incredible. But that Cummins engine in that truck, it could not be easier. The worst part about it is it's tight clearance between the engine and the radiator and the fan and everything. But literally, Charlie, it's 2 10-millimeter bolts, and it falls out of there, and you stuff the other one in and put the 2 10-millimeters back in, and there's a rubber gasket O-ring kind of a thing in there. There's no gasket. It's just a rubber seal. Changing the water pump is literally, you can do it with one hand in about a minute. It's getting access down between the the shroud and the fan and the engine.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is here you're outside and it's super cold. And
it was a beautiful day. It could not have been a better situation. It was a beautiful day.
How beautiful how cold is it when it's beautiful?
I was working in a t-shirt the whole time,
Really?
and I was sweating.
I mean, there was only negative 15 and not negative 18.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a stiff wind. It was a sunny day. The sun was warm. Literally could not have been a better. It could not have been better had it been summer, because it would have been too hot to work out there. But it was really great. It warmed me out anyway, and getting the serpentine belt back on the engine was definitely the worst part of that job. But
see, for me, it's always finding the 10-millimeter socket. That's the only one that's
I was a
always
parts
missing.
store. The guy had one on the shelf.
Yeah.
I didn't even have any tools. I said, "Can I borrow that?" He said, "Yeah, here."
The 10-millimeter, that's the one that I can never find.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, you could have your whole toolbox and it won't have a 10-millimeter in it.
Right, it'll just be missing the one. It's like, damn.
And I just guessed too, because I did that water pump, I don't know, 10 years ago or something.
James, Mark wants to know how big your weight was on the back, your weight box, or how heavy it was.
Oh, actually, well, interesting enough, here's one for you. So I don't know how heavy it was. It's just the box. So the box is about 20, I guess, 20 inches wide. It's about 16 inches deep, and she's 24 or 16 inches wide, 20 inches in length, and about 24 inches in depth. And what we filled that up with was, we picked the tractor up from the farm. So, of course, the only thing we could find to fill it with was the manure pile. So we just filled it up with the manure in the back, right? So interesting enough, if you watch my video when we picked those hives up last year, one single hive was pretty much all that little tractor would pick up. And if you watch taking them out of the bee barn, that little tractor all of a sudden coming out of the bee barn handled it easy peasy, no questions whatsoever. Before the back tires would want to be coming up off the ground. So I don't know how heavy it is, but
Probably at least 300 or 400 pounds, probably.
oh, absolutely, at least. Yeah, I would say it's that at least. So,
Yeah, some tracker weights would work well.
yep. So,
Or
You
put
filled the
wheel
weight
weights.
box with manure.
well, that's the only thing we had around there. What do you do, right?
Filled full of shit.
Did you have all the neighborhood kids saying, "Hey, there goes James in his shitbox John Deere"?
Well,
That's a good one.
Yeah. I was just happy that Murray was willing to let me borrow it again. So yeah,
Can I have your shitbox tractor again?
yeah, there he goes. What's that smell?
Mark-
Oh, James is in town.
Yeah, Mark's saying, is it a 1025?
I don't know what it was. You'd have to go back and take a look at the. I used to have a 755. I love that little thing. Anyways, when we sold the acreage, we sold the tractor. Hindsight's always 20/20, right? So this one here, no, I don't think it's a 1025. It's smaller than that. So, and the only reason I say that when we had the acreage, I was looking at a 1025, but yeah, it's a little bit smaller. The other thing with that tractor is they got really, really long forks on it. That tractor could sure use some shorter forks. So, but
Yeah, if you keep your weight closer to the frame,
correct. Yeah.
you'll definitely be a lot better off.
Mine's got short forks, and yeah, they're really nice. There's certain things I do have long forks for it that I can put on for different things, but
There's been a Canadian beekeeper. He's commercial. He comes on. I can't remember. You don't remember his name, Bob? Older fella. His son's.
Oh, Doug?
Yeah, Doug.
He's in Manitoba too.
Doug from Canada.
Yeah, he's got about, what was it, 300 hives?
Yeah, about 300 hives.
Yeah, but he doesn't put them in a bee barn. He
It
puts.
just says Doug on his screen. He was
Yeah.
on last night for a little while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But
His son's buying kind of like Ian's hive lifter, but it's not the same brand. It's from Italy. And all. He was showing it here a couple weeks ago.
Is that the kind that I know? There's one the guys are looking at. The whole boom kind of goes up and down instead of just the winch at the end. Like Ian's just has that winch at the end, but there's one that actually the whole boom goes up and down.
Yeah, it's like, I know what you're talking about.
I don't remember what
I don't
brand
remember.
is
It was a weird name. I couldn't understand it. I think it's pretty close to what Ian has. But I do like the idea of with James, the John Deere tractor, and I think you have the same thing. I think you're a little more versatile with the tractor and the front end loader.
Yeah, tractors are really great, but tractors are kind of like a Swiss Army knife in that it'll do almost anything for you, but it doesn't do any one of those things really, really, really well. They're always a little bit of a pain in the butt in some ways.
Yeah.
An easy loader, boy, that does one job really great. My tractor will do that job pretty good. Pain is now I have to haul my tractor around, right?
Yeah.
Maneuverability and all
Well,
this kind of stuff.
it's either that or it's a Hummer-Bee or something.
Well, exactly, and that's a good example because you get a Hummer-Bee, and if you want to load product on and off a truck, that's exactly the unit for you. You want to clear the snow in your apiary, you better go get something else, right? Skid steers are similar, where like skid steers, maybe a bad example because they have so many attachments, they'll do almost anything. But yeah, that's tractors. Like they're really, really versatile, but they're not specialized. So specialized tools really do the best job, and they're the nicest to use. But boy, they can be expensive because they only do one thing.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm like James and I had this conversation, and
A couple
you know,
times.
I'm not trying to convince James of anything. However, um, he's looking for solutions just like I am and just like I was, and it just occurred to me. I was thinking, he was kind of really eyeing up an easy loader, and I said, that little Kubota that I have, for well under half the money of that easy loader, you can have that little Kubota tractor. And then what are you going to do with an easy loader in the winter? Nothing. Store it somewhere. That's what. Well, in the winter, the Kubota, you're going to clear your snow, and you're going to summer, you're going to cut the grass in your apiary.
The anything I can
Right.
say is like that tractor that John Deere he was working. If you're going to buy something like that, I wouldn't buy that small. I would buy something a
Yeah.
little bit more substantial.
Well, especially with the
Well,
pallets. Like if you see me loading those pallets last fall, a pallet, a two-way pallet with a super brood box and that medium on top, that was all that little tractor would lift. That was it. That was a load, and that was with the weight box on the back. So
All right.
that doesn't sound like even as much, like my tractor doesn't lift very much, but that doesn't sound like it would lift even as much as mine.
yeah, this tractor is quite a bit smaller than yours is too, Brad.
It is, eh? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I've seen.
And now is that John Deere 4-wheel drive or not?
Yeah, what do they call it? Front wheel assist, I think is what they call it. But all four
Yeah,
turn.
yeah.
Yep.
I often want of a bigger tractor. I often want to lift more and all that kind of stuff. But boy, when I'm whistling around my apiary cutting the grass with my tractor, I'm thinking, boy, I don't want a bigger tractor. Then the stuff that I can get into with that little tractor,
Yeah.
it's narrow enough.
I still
Without
have
the mower on, it's no wider than a pallet, so I can go right between two rows of pallets with it to get the one at the end or whatever.
Yeah. I still have my zero turn mower from when I owned the campsite, so it's pretty hard to beat that for mowing grass. I mean,
For sure.
30, I think it's 25 or 35 horse on that thing. It mows at 25 kilometers an hour, and that grass can be, that grass can be 3 feet tall. And my father or stepfather, he rest his soul, he understood what the seatbelt was on for that thing, because when we had the acreage, he jumped on it and was like, well, you might want to put the seatbelt on. And of course, he's like, we don't need the seatbelt. Well, we're sitting up on the deck watching. We got down to the end and turned the corner, and off he went, coffee cup up in hand, and he got himself up, brushed himself off, blew his coffee cup off, jumped back on the lawnmower, put the seatbelt on, and then started to back up.
So that's an excellent example, James. You saying about how it cuts grass, and that's the tool for cutting grass, but that's a specialized tool. That is the only thing that thing does, and that's kind of what I was saying about tractors is, they do lots of things, but they do them pretty good, right? My little tractor, it's really good at cutting grass, but it's not nearly as good as a zero turn, right? But it'll do, and so when I'm moving my bees around, I'm harvesting honey, or I'm moving bees to my out yards, I'm not carrying a second lawnmower. I'm cutting the grass as I move my bees around in the yard. I just leave the mower running as I'm moving my bees, and the grass gets cut.
So what do you have, a belly?
Default.
You have a belly mower?
Yeah, I got a 54-inch belly mower on it. So I do that all the time. I'll be working in my apiary, cleaning up. I'll be moving pallets around, moving bees, moving, pallets of boxes and stuff around. And I'll just lower the mower and leave it running. And it doesn't even run full RPM necessarily. It just runs. And by the time I'm doing my work, my apiary is all nicely mowed because everywhere I drive, the grass gets cut.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I
again,
thought
lots of
James was going to say.
compromises.
I thought James was going to say he's going to bought a Cowan extractor line.
Stay tuned.
There's lots of things on the list.
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting year. A very, very interesting year.
13 frames at a time.
Hey, you know
Give it-
what? You use what you have available, right?
Right. Well, there's no need for you to buy something that's not going to fit your expansion either at this point.
Well, and you pick away at your worst pain points. Pick the worst thing and deal with that, and then deal with the next worst thing.
Right.
Michael, bees really like that a bit. The bees don't seem to care too much. If I start blowing grass at the entrance, they get a little cranky. But yeah, I can drive around at most wearing a veil, cutting the grass between the hives, and they don't bother me.
I opened up that swarm hive today, and I swear every single bee out of that colony came out today. It was overcast when I did it, but they were hot when they came out. But the Ultra Breeze, not a sting since I've had that. The only sting that I've
Breeze is the
gotten.
best.
What's that?
Ultra Breeze is the best.
Hey,
You don't get stung in an Ultra Breeze.
I'm drinking the Kool-Aid because I bought it, and
That's not Kool-Aid, man. Fact.
that thing, I haven't gotten not a sting. And with the Guardian, I was getting torn up constantly. Veil, no veil.
I've been wearing Ultra Breeze since the beginning. I've never been stung through an Ultra Breeze. If I'm not paying attention and I let, something will crawl up my back or something like that, maybe, but that doesn't happen very often.
Well,
and the nice thing about Ultra Breeze, one of the things is the way they make the wrist straps with the Velcro and whatnot. You just wrap that right around your wrist and it's tight.
I
And
did
not
get
going up your sleeve.
I got a sting. I got a couple stings on my hands when I was marking queens, right? Trying to grab the queen, miss her, piss a bee off. Next thing you got a stinger in your hand. But
well, it serves you right.
Yeah, but hey,
That's your fault.
I'm going to show you something. You'll be proud, Brad. Today, well, this isn't just today, but mainly today.
You've been marking virgins?
Marking the queens right here on the desk.
Oh, look at that. Right on.
As they were coming out. Matter of fact, a couple of them, they were coming out, and I grabbed them right out of the they crawled right out of the cell onto my hand. I grabbed them, put a dot on them, put them right back in the roller. Good to go. So easy. So easy.
Perfect. Oh, way to go. Congratulations. I'm glad you're getting some queens. Yeah,
now if they just come back.
It'll be months before I can enjoy that.
So we'll see.
That's part of what I'm running into right now. So I have drones. So we open up the drone colony. I have drones, but I don't have the weather right now for a mating flight. I mean, even at 8 to 10 to 12 degrees down on the ground like it's getting, it's not warm enough for a mating flight. So I have to dig out my AI equipment here.
Well, mine just every time, like the first, how on your spreadsheet it says mating flight 2 days, never fails. One of the 2 mating flight days, rain. They're not going anywhere.
Rain. Yeah.
So I don't even have to look at the weather report.
Okay.
I can just look at when they're supposed to fly and say it's going to rain. That's the day it's going to happen.
That's okay. They know how to do it. They get the job done. Don't you worry.
So, but the funny thing was, before these I knew when these cells were going to hatch. I knew it was supposed to rain. So I went out thinking I was going to be slick and go out the day before and go through all of the colonies that I had put cells in or had virgin queens in them previously to make sure which ones didn't. So if I had to put a new cell in it, right? And so I'm going through all the colonies. I'll write on the lid, no queen in big letters. So I know, okay, no queen, this is getting one. But before I put the cell or the virgin in, I opened it back up to do a re-inspection. There she is. I'm like, with the red dots. So either she was out getting her groove on with some spicy drones out there yesterday, or the day before, and I just didn't see her. But it was hard not to see her with the big red dot on her, So I'm just glad I didn't put another queen in there and get her wiped out, and then have to wait on the whole
word of
process.
caution, though, Bob, with those mating nukes, just be careful with those and try to leave them alone as much as you can.
Yeah, I've been good. I've been good. I haven't been going in them.
That's hard. That's the tough part. You want to kind of, but you got to leave them alone.
So I had 11.
Wait, does this work?
Yeah. Is that the bullshit meter?
So
No,
Are you-
I'm trying
you're
to whack them.
smacking them, smacking them. Leave them alone.
Whack-a-bomb.
So the thing is that it's like, and I was telling James on the phone today, I'm like, now I feel like there's nothing for me to do in the colonies, right? Because everything's either got a virgin or they've been split, so they've got room, or they had a cell. I mean, everything's waiting on mating flight and laying eggs right now. So I'm just like,
That's right.
just sitting,
That's right.
nothing to do. And I'm like, I wonder if this one's
And that's when you get in trouble.
right.
When you've got nothing to do, and then you start messing around and fussing with them and mucking around in places you don't belong, and that's when you get in trouble.
Well, so
Ask me how I know.
so I'm using this time, and now I'm going in waxing frames, and because James is beating me in the head. You don't have enough comb, but no, you don't have enough comb. Just get some comb drawn somehow.
Until you have too much comb, you don't have enough.
Yeah, see, ball. Yeah, hey, the only reason I even checked them at all was just to see if I needed to virgin them or do something. But
So when you're grafting, Brad, do you just walk a virgin queen into the hives, or you do cells?
Yeah, no, I've been just dumping the virgin on the top bars.
Okay, so you don't worry about introducing her or anything like that. You just let her walk
I've
in
had
and be done with
excellent
it.
success with that. Now, people ask me specifics, and I don't even know. I usually have my queenless nukes made up a day or two at least in advance.
Yeah.
I try to do a cell check before I take the virgin out there to put her in.
Right.
Sometimes I don't get that done, so I'll do the cell check just before I put the virgin in. But I don't like doing it that way, because if I'm doing it that way, I don't want to shake the bees off and stir everybody up. So I have to do a cell check with the bees on the frames, which is not ideal.
Yeah,
You can miss too
miss
much
'em.
that way. But I have done that. And also my mating nukes, I'll use a pro nuke or something. It'll have a frame or two of bees. They're not real strong. So it's not like I'm dumping a virgin on the top bars of a great big booming 10 frame or something. So those are kind of the parameters. And my virgins are only, I would say, the oldest virgin I would put in there would be 10 hours after emergence. And most of them are much younger than that. We'll see them emerge. I'll mark them, cage them, and walk them out there. So within an hour, they're in the
Right.
nuke. So they're
All
not
right,
even
I got
flying.
I
Like,
got an
there's no-
issue here. I got a 10 framer that's queenless. I found it, and I condensed it down to one box, and I was out there looking in my nukes, and I found a nuke that I had. Most of my nukes are all deeps, and I'm running mediums in my 10 framers. So I found a box. It was a 5-frame medium nuke with a queen in there. How would you just put those 5 frames right in the middle and let it go at that, or would you paper her in with the other bees
That
that
I'm
are
not
they're
very good at. Um, at this point, I would probably use newspaper because I know that
okay.
works almost every time.
All right.
I have had people tell me that yeah, you take that nuke, you open up a spot in the middle of that box, and you put that whole nuke right down in the center.
I've done that.
Maybe some smoke, maybe
Spritz it with some
a
sugar
little bit of
water
a
or
light.
something like that.
Well, sugar water with some Pro Health or Honeybee Healthy to give them something to
Now,
smell.
let's see, what was it? Somebody
I
else was
don't know.
saying they put a flavoring in there. What was that?
Vanilla.
Is it vanilla? Okay. And it all makes
Well, it's
them
the same
smell
kind
the
of thing
same.
with the Honeybee Healthy. It just disrupts all the pheromone smell, and
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing but I'm not very experienced with doing that. So I have tried
Yeah.
like candy cages and all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, they haven't worked great for me. What
No,
does
I
work
just like I said, I
almost
just
every
found
time
the
is
queen,
newspaper.
I found the queen and it was on the right size frames that I needed. And I'm like, okay. And it, it's putzing along, I'll say. And I'm like, all right, well, instead of me buying a queen, I'll put her over here in this other hive. And along with all this extra brood, hopefully it'll, boost her. And
So
if she
tell me
doesn't,
about the receiving hive again.
the receiving hive is just bees. They're queenless. There's no brood. There's no nothing in there. I just
Okay, so they've
found
been
that
queenless a
one.
long time.
Mm, probably. There's no laying workers in there
There's
or
no
nothing. I mean, I just went through them,
there's no brood. They're queenless for
yeah, for quite a while.
a couple of weeks anyway.
I just finally got into them because I went through them Sunday, I guess it was, is when I found them,
Okay, this is what I've been told by so-called experts and
Yeah.
experts, people like Michael Palmer. Okay, Michael Palmer, he talks about uh, the difference between a caged queen and a laying queen. And a mated queen is not necessarily a laying queen. If she's caged, she's not laying. And
Hmm.
I have this confirmation from a very experienced beekeeper in our association here that he says, "Oh yeah, I switch queens in my colonies all the time." And what he's talking about is pluck a laying queen from a colony, pluck a laying queen from another colony, and switch them around, basically. And he said, works every time because she's a laying queen, and they don't kill a laying queen. That's not my experience, so don't hold me to that. This is just what I've been
Yeah,
told.
I've heard
Michael
that.
Palmer talks about the same thing. Now, if you're taking a laying queen and giving them to a queenless colony,
Hi.
like you're talking, uh, that's a little different than what they're talking about. So I have done that in 2021. I experimented with some of that. I had mixed results. So that's kind of all I'll say. I won't say that it failed. I won't say that it was success. There was some of each. So there was something
Yeah,
that was,
Brian there, he's saying, do the newspapers cheap insurance. Yeah, and I've done that where
yeah, newspaper. I would say it always works, except there's never an always. So I'll say it almost always
yeah,
works.
but
I've never had it fail.
you have a higher percentage of success possibly. And I was just kind
Now,
of curious what you guys
one
do.
thing we do in the spring, and I've done this in my videos. You've seen Ian do this in his videos. Is when we find a colony that's that's healthy but very small, and she can't get moving, she can't get momentum to start laying because she just doesn't have any workforce. Is we'll actually just put that weak colony on top of a strong colony, with a queen excluder and newspaper between. And by the time they chew through the newspaper, they're fine with each other, and you just end up with 2 good colonies, right? So you got 2 queen system basically is what you've got then, and that works. I haven't had a lot of failures with that. The failures I've had are because I did it too early, and the top box didn't have brood or not much brood. So she has to have some brood up there to make the bees that come up not kill her. And
Right. Right.
I don't know exactly the dynamics, but that was,
My biggest
and I
problem
asked.
is the weather has been a killer here. It just you there's no. It's like today. I didn't know it was going to clear off, but it cleared off, and I had this short window. And it's by the time I got done looking over my nukes, here comes this major, rainstorm and windstorm. And I had everything buttoned down, but it's like, okay, well, I can't do anything now. And hopefully tomorrow they say it's going to be sunny, but they say it's going to be windy and whatever. So I'm thinking, I just thinking here, I got this one hive. It's a nuke. I got a queen. I got a bunch of frames of brood and a medium, which fits this here honey, hive. And I'm thinking to myself, well, now I got another nuke that's got a couple mediums I found in it, along with some deeps. And I found her in that hive, and I'm like, okay, I got this. I'm selling her, and I'm like, all right, I let her walk off into that deep, which was on a lid on the ground. And I went over here to the house and I got myself a queen excluder and stuck it on top of them 2 mediums underneath of her, and then put that deep on. I said, now I got her sequestered up in that one deep. I know where she's at, and she can't get down. I'm thinking to myself, well, now I can go out there and grab a box of bees and brood out of that new column, because they're too darn big anyway, and slow them down a little bit. And I could
So
add
one
all
thing
that
you
in
could
there.
also do with that, the original question, uh, with how to introduce that. Another way you could do that would be with a push-in cage. Actually, just
Mhm.
reviewed Gus's video on push-in cages. A really good video on how to make them and how to use them. He didn't actually demonstrate on a live hive, but he it was a very good video on how to do that. So I think that would work really well in that situation too. If you could take that nuke, slip a push-in cage over top of that queen, then stick that whole nuke right in the center of that big queenless colony,
Mhm.
and come back in, a week,
That
then I'm sure everything would be fine then.
that push-in cage, Brad, did it allow the worker bees to go through, or did it keep them separate?
Keep it separate, but the idea when you use it is to place it over top of emerging broods so that she would have an increasing number of attendants with her
Got
under
it.
the cage over time.
I actually made a couple of those that fit the full frame. So, it's the size of the whole frame. So basically, I can take that cage, and I made it out of the hardware cloth, and I can set it right over top, right inside the wooden frame in there, and then I can drop that straight in there. I was actually toying with the idea of using that as a bit of a timing frame this year. So if I can get that, pick the queen up
Yeah.
with
I
some of
bought
the brood and stuff, drop that on there, and
Yeah.
then put that
Sure.
cage over her. That would be a timing frame.
down there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, down there at High
Yeah.
Life, I bought one of those boxes they're selling now. It's a queen
Yeah.
excluder. You put your one
Yeah.
frame inside of it. That the fellow down, what's his name, down there in Florida, used it down there. I'm going to use that as a timing situation. Mark Miller there wants to know how you guys make up your cell builders. Or do you do a cell starter finisher type of thing, or is it, you know what I'm saying, where you put the brood down in
I've
or
I've done a few different ways. 2021 it worked out really well for me. I used a queenless starter and a queen right finisher. So I set up a queenless starter hive, and it was just in a 6-frame poly nuke box, and How do I set it up? Just the normal stuff, right? Tons of bees, tons of nurse bees, lots of emerging brood, uh, good solid pollen frame. Feed it, feed it with light syrup. What more can I say about it? And that worked really well for starting cells. And then 24 to 48 hours, I'd move that cell bar, the cell frame, into the queen rate finisher to continue the process.
Well, we were talking on the phone today, and what he was doing was like the folks down in Florida were talking about, where you had two deep boxes and you, let's see, I'll say load up the bottom box where you're going to put your frame down there, and you put a double screen bottom board in with, and then the top box is holding your queen with an entrance out the rear, and all those bees are flying around back into the front entrance. And then after we discussed, I found, let's say 2 days, 48 hours, and then switch those boxes around to where you put the cells up top, put the queen down at the bottom, but then you put a queen excluder in between, and then they'll finish those cells out and do it that way.
Yeah, and a lot of different ways, and the point is most of them work just fine. It's however you want to do it. That kind of a system, to me, that kind of a system is something a person should use if they want to raise one round of cells. Like if you're a hobbyist, you want to make 10 cells or even
Right.
30 cells, but you want to do one round of cells. Like that's the kind of thing. If you want to do a few rounds of cells, then setting up actually queenless cell builder, cell
Well, that's
starter,
what I do. I set up a
is what you want
queenless
to
cell
do, right?
builder and just keep adding stuff
Yeah.
to it. And then I keep putting myself, my grafting frame in there. And then after, I look, they talk about the different, numbers of days, but I count day one as my grafting day. 6 days later, they're capped. I
Yeah.
take them out. It's easy to understand. That's why it's not confusing. And then I put it in my incubator. And then this year, I'm going to let it hatch in the incubator in about 7 days, I think 6 to 7 days, and mark them and walk them in. That's
Like
what I'm going to
Randy
do.
Oliver, I saw a video that he did a presentation, and he detailed what I thought was a really nice little system. Very, 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 very simple and effective, and you could raise quite a few cells, but you're only going to, again, it's for the hobbyist or even sideliner. You're going to raise one round, maybe 2 rounds of cells in the system. And essentially what he did was he did a form of what you just described, Charlie. And he basically took, I think, all of the uh, sealed brood out of the bottom. He started with a double deep, and he took all the
Mhm.
sealed brood out of the bottom and put it in the top box. But he put a divider board between, not a queen excluder. Like they're divided; they couldn't pass. I think he called it a swarm board. Is that like a double screen board?
It has to be a double screen board, I would think.
Yeah, and so the whole idea was kind of what you described. The entrance to the top box then was out the back, and so the
Right.
field force would leave the top box and then end up back in the bottom box on the front where they were oriented. And so then you ended up with the majority of your young bees and the majority of your brood, and you should stock it with everything you need, like lots of feed, lots of pollen, all this kind of stuff that you need in a cell builder. And he said then you drop your cells in there and they'll start those cells like crazy. And I thought that was a really nice little system for 1 or 2 rounds of queens,
Right.
especially if you're using a queen rate finisher. Then you can run a couple of rounds of cells in that starter over 3 or 4 days.
Right. I don't know. I make up a nuke. I'm going to use actually I'm going to try to go. I was going to do this last year, but it just happened. So I found a nuke that was tremendously loaded with bees and everything, and they were queenless. And I said, all right, I'll just use this. This is perfect, for a cell starter finisher. And I'm used to my system being where I'm grafting once a week. Every Wednesday I graft, and you put that bar in there on a Wednesday, and then Monday is when they're capped. You put that in the incubator, and then you got a couple of days there to refresh up that uh, nuke with brood and whatever. Check it out for as queen cells and volunteer cells and stuff like that. And then I do it all over again, do it that way.
So you
And
said you found a nuke that was well stocked, but it was queenless.
yeah, it was last year. I don't know. I went through and it was, had the right amount. What it was a 5/5. And then what I had
Yeah.
oodles of bees. So I took the top box off and I shook all them bees out of that top box down into the bottom box. And and then I made sure, they had the right amount of brood and pollen frame and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
nectar frame, to put
So
next to my bar and all that. And
yeah.
it worked out well.
So if I was trying to picture that, and I was thinking, if you found a colony or nuke, or it doesn't matter what it is, that's queenless, and you think, wow, this is well stocked and it's queenless, it should make a good builder. My question about that would then be, how old are these bees? If they're
Yeah.
queenless, and they haven't had a queen for a while, that would be my only question. And then just to
Right.
look at whatever brood might be left and say, well, how long has all of the brood emerged? Well, if all the broods emerged, they've been queenless for 3 weeks. But
Yeah.
if they have some nice fat white larvae in there, then they've maybe only been queenless for 5 days,
Yeah.
6 days.
I don't remember now.
Uh,
I think it did have larvae and stuff in there.
yeah,
Yeah.
just to kind of
Brian.
footnote that for viewers.
Yeah. Um, yeah. Brian wants to know how many rounds do I do? Last year I didn't do a lot because of the weather and everything. It's just fighting the weather last year, raining all the time. But this year I think I did, I don't know, 100 cells or something like that or more, I guess, several quite, I usually, if you try to here in April, it gets cold at night. So really, some people, oh, I'm going to do it, by the 15th of April. Well, yeah, but it's still getting 40 degrees at night. You're going to chill the brood or the egg, the queen cells if you don't have it insulated. That's why I wanted to kind of do a license hive that's 6 frame. And I also wanted to put a 1 frame feeder in there and keep it, that way they can have feed. They got warmth, plug up
Yeah.
all the vent holes up and then stock the living snot out of it. And
I think I'm going to do a comparison over the summer because I've got those nukes that I did that are, the queen should be back mated now and just waiting on them to lay. But when I transition those nukes to a 10 frame colony, I think I'm going to do one in a Lyson deep insulated and one in a wood deep and see which one actually, it's not really apples to apples because we all know there's variables, right? Queen could be mated differently or whatever, but
And your sample size couldn't be smaller either.
what's that?
Your sample size couldn't be smaller either.
What do you mean?
Well, if you're going to do a real comparison, you got to have 100 of each.
Yeah,
Having
well,
one of each,
I don't even have 100 of
the sample size
Totally.
is. And no, I'm not knocking your science either, but I'm just saying that among your variables, there's dozens of because I've done that kind of thing, and it's kind of, you look at them later and you kind of think, I wonder what caused that difference. Was it the box, or was it any one of these other 100?
And the only thing
variables?
that even stimulates this thought process is because I accidentally moved a queen with bees that I was making into a starter finisher, right? And I put her in a 10 frame box in that license, and she just exploded. I mean, they just grew and grew and grew compared to some of my other colonies that are in a regular wood Langstroth that are not growing and growing and growing like that. So
My experience with the polystyrene hives is the bees do very well in them.
but so do the wax moths.
You know, as far as well, wax
Yeah,
moths will
that's
eat right
right,
through
Brad.
that
You
stuff. But
you were the one that had bug problems with your polystyrene, didn't you?
not me. I was given those boxes because they were kind of trashed. They're not
Yeah,
very
but
good
what
shape.
was it? What was chewing on them?
Wax moth.
Wax moth,
Really?
they go right through them.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah.
I didn't.
Oh yeah. They're
Yeah,
really
that
rough.
came up. What was it last night, Bob? That
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were
I typed that they go right through. So definitely, like the people are saying, well, do the bees chew that? They don't chew that high density styrofoam. They'll chew regular polystyrene, like styrofoam brand kind of density. They'll chew that,
oh,
but
okay.
they don't chew the high density. But wax moth will. Wax moth will go right through it, and I can prove it.
Even though it's high density, the wax moth will go through it. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, they'll go through wood.
Yeah,
Wax moth.
I got some I got some nukes out there where it was two nuke boxes like real close together, and they got
Yeah,
down in there and they got divots where they chewed out
yeah.
across
Those
the
little
face of that
lines.
little lines, like they carved it out and all that stuff.
You betcha. Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, as far as the bees are concerned, the polystyrene boxes, they're awesome. They're yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
that's the way to do it.
I ran that nuke through the winter last year, and they don't eat as well. They don't eat hardly as the amount of food because they don't have to heat.
That's those waxy, full of
Mhm.
holes, 6 frame polystyrenes right there.
Mm.
And I always say, Charlie, those boxes, there's two things that I love about them. I have a love-hate relationship. There's two things that I love about them. I love that I have them, and I love what I paid for them. And I hate everything else about those boxes.
Well, the biggest thing is the company needs to make some way to be able to hit them with oxalic acid, because then that my machine will
Yeah.
melt the
If I was
sucker.
going to run that, I kind of figured out something that I would do if I was going to run that. And I inject my oxalic acid vapor a little differently than a lot of people. I'll put it in. Have you ever seen on my videos, Charlie, when I put it on in the side of the box right along the back? And so I shoot the vapor right along the back wall of the box.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do that on a poly box, what I would do, and I'm not going to do this because I'm going to get rid of these, but if
mail
I
them to
was
me.
running these boxes, yeah, you can have them. Come and get them. Is I would take get a nice big dowel rod, and I would cut it in lengths that equals the thickness of the wall of the poly box, or maybe a little less.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would take my Forstner bit and I would drill a hole in that poly box the same size as that dowel. I'd stuff that dowel in there, maybe with a little bit of spray foam to make it stick. And
Yeah.
then I'd drill a 1/4 inch hole through that dowel. So now my oxalic acid vaporizer has a wooden hole to go through into the box.
Yeah.
Really, just
So then I just have a wooden dowel in the side of my
port.
box.
Yeah.
I got James's video on the other screen over here. It's a pretty bee yard, no snow. It's got grass. They got grass in Canada.
It's a good thing I plowed or went and did the snow blowing there because, even today I was sitting there. Yeah, there's a snowbank 10 feet from you, but with that grass and everything there, it was just like a big heat sink. It was great.
The sun is so hot right now.
Yep. So,
It was
Well-
only 81 degrees here today.
well, you got that here. We did get up to 70, which that's unusual. It was cold and wet this morning.
I went back and I watched that one where I put the GoPro just in front of the hive, and
It was 32 minutes.
Yeah, I find that quite interesting. I kind of time framed it there and cut a little bit out because the GoPro I think went for what 2.5 hours, and just I like I say down to 32 minutes or whatever it was. So, but
Need feeding, does he?
Yeah, he's
Well,
back and forth. He wants his treat. It's that time, right?
yeah.
Did we get to see cat ass on the screen?
No, I'll put no cat ass up there for you.
Cat sphincter for everyone.
He's,
That one eye looking at you.
There he is.
Well, I'm going to try something a little different. I always battle soft ground and mud driving back and forth with my tractor so much, moving the bees out. So I've always gotten impatient and take my snowblower and clear all the snow out of the apiary so it melts off, or the snow melts, and then it, supposedly dries up, but it never actually dries up. So I'm going to try this year to avoid that, and I'll clear the snow off as I move the bees. I'll make a big path, and then I'll line up a bunch of bees in it, and then I'll make another big path so the ground doesn't thaw out before I get the tractor back and forth on it. So I'm hoping that works out well.
44 degrees Fahrenheit. I like how you started catering to your U.S. Viewers there with the degrees Fahrenheit in there.
I have to, after the 3/4 inch episode, I have to.
How much was it, Bob? 34 degrees?
40. It was 47, I think is what it just said. No, was it 42 degrees? Something like that.
I'd have to go back and take a look,
And they're flying at 42 degrees.
They were actually flying
here
at -2, believe it or not. There wasn't a whole bunch, but there was a couple that would come out. They do a little thing.
They really had to go.
-2.
The ones that they had their little wings crossed, they had to go. So bad.
I did see what was it? I went up to the hives this morning because we had a windstorm, yesterday, and I was checking just to see if everything was okay. And there, even though it was kind of cold and windy and kind of wettish, it was because it rained this morning. There was some bees out flying. I was surprised that they were, they weren't that many, but there was some.
Well, I had to clean my GoPro off again today.
I saw you do like this and look at your GoPro on the footage.
That my GoPro the other day, that was it was covered with bee poop. But today what I did is I set it in front of the bucket with the open pollen sub, and I just hit play and walked away. So I got I think there's 2.5 hours of the bees pulling that pollen sub out. But they
is that a flow hive? You get flow hives on your pallets out there?
Brad loves those things. No, actually, it's not a flow hive out there, but I keep the flow hives for here at the house. The neighbors come over and fill.
That was when you were bringing out the shed. There weren't those little single hives.
Couple of those were Allen and Sheldon's, right? A couple of those are mine. You'll find what those are is. Those hives.
Yeah, those are the ones that you made or something. I think I remember.
Right. They're split. They're split in half. So they're each one of those is 4 frames, and then there's 4 up top. So it's actually an 8-frame box. But anyways, back to my the pollen sub. They went through half a 5-gallon pail today of pollen sub that they literally picked up and took back to the hive. And like I said, over the 2.5 hours on the GoPro, you come back out and this GoPro was just completely covered. I don't know how many hours or how many minutes I got before they completely covered it, but you'd see this big wave come back, and then they would fly in. And as they'd fly into the 5-gallon pail, this puff of pollen sub would come back out. All these bees would come back out white, and it was
Well,
quite the show.
what about those boxes of pollen patties? Are you going to put them on soon or
They're
whatever?
they're already on.
Already on.
Yeah, we got in, and I worked. What did I work? 70. Well, basically 74 hives today. My back is killing me. Good thing Alan was there to give me a hand.
So you put a whole pound on each one of them?
I did for now. My original plan was to drop 2 pounds on each one. There's a reason I only put a pound on.
Yeah.
Which we can't know yet.
I need. Yeah, well,
You need
Bob,
them other extra, that other half for the rest of them new hives you're going to put in.
Well, what Bob was alluding to is I bought another 2,000 frames today. So, I'm going to start buying staples in bulk. I got to find like a great big 40-pound box of staples for my stapler.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brad,
Exactly.
Brad was saying, you know what? He's just pushing wood through the lumber. That's probably going to be me in about 3 weeks' time.
You're just going to be tack, 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 tack for the rest of your life.
Oh,
My stapler's made so many frames it's falling apart, so I buy a new stapler now.
yeah.
Michael, you're feeding 3-to-1 open feed right now in South Carolina? I'm feeding like 3/4 to 1, like less than 1.
You know, interesting enough, I did another video on that today. You know, quite often we talk about how to mix up, sugar water, and everybody's got the sugar water. But I was sitting here the other night. In fact, I think I was watching part of it on this channel too, I think, where everybody was trying to figure out how to mix the sugar water up, and how you figure it out with the apis, and stuff like that to put in there. So lo and behold, I was mixing sugar water today with apis. So I did another video today. I'll get that edited and get it all up. Like I said,
1 liter to 1 kilogram.
We're very fortunate up here. 1 liter to 1 kilogram. However, here's something I did learn today. So
Yeah.
with the apis, so it is designed to, like, the little packages. So I got the little packages that go in a 200 liter container, because my container is 200 liters. But one of the things that I didn't pay any attention to was how much does the water increase when you put the sugar in. So for example, what I did at first, I put 100 liters of water in my container, and then I put in 100 kilograms of sugar, and I wanted to see where
double it.
It didn't double. It
No?
was 70%. So 100 liters of water became 170 liters once it was all mixed together. So it grows by 70%.
Right.
So that's an interesting fact out there, of which I didn't know until I did that today. So it gives you an idea of where you want to go, so that if you're putting a supplement like apis in there, and you're trying to shoot for a certain volume. I was shooting for 200 liters. It tells you what you need to put in there in order to get to that 200 liter mark. So 70%. So your sugar, the water, or the level of your water, is going to increase by 70% when you put 1-to-1 sugar water in there. If I explained that correctly.
I'm trying to remember my mix. I go for 1,000 liters of syrup. And if I'm mixing 2-to-1, which I normally mix, of course, in the fall, I'm making a whole tote. So
Yep.
That'll be 2-to-1. And I think it's 450 liters of water, and 40 bags of sugar, which is 20 kg a bag. So that's 800 kg, so it's twice as much sugar as water by weight. So that's about right.
So it works out perfect. So 120 liters of water and 120 kilograms of sugar gives me exactly 200 liters. Works out perfect in my container.
Of 1 to 1.
Of 1 to 1. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is one of those packages of Apis Biologics. So
120, eh? Well, that'll be probably what I'm doing.
Now, is that the big
120?
one?
That's good to know.
No, that's the little pack.
Big one,
That's
Jane?
the little pack. Yeah.
That's a little pack. That's a $24 pack.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's 20 gallons of water and 250 pounds of sugar for 2 to 1, and a tablespoon of Apis Biologic with a little bit more, like a quarter spoon or eighth. It's a little bit more than a tablespoon.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I stressed on my video, which I'll get uploaded here as well, is, I've watched. So Apis is taken right off this year. Everybody's kind of looking at this Apis. Now I'm going on. This will be my first, second. This will be my third spring. I guess that I've been using it. Second spring and 3 falls maybe. It'd be second spring and three falls.
Out 2 years ago.
So, but anyways, follow the instructions. Everybody's out there. They're using this stuff in different ways. And one of the things that I stressed on my video, and I'll stress it here, that follow the instructions, because we want to support people that are out there doing this testing and coming up with these products for beekeeping. We want to make sure that we're using these products correctly and that we're not misusing them or misinterpreting how they should be used. Let's encourage people that make a product like this to continue to make these things. So let's use it properly and read the directions, and let's make sure that we're mixing it up properly so that the results that you're going to get will be accurate, true results, not something that is skewed because the product wasn't used correctly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Because there's nothing, nothing more sad than somebody disparaging a product because it didn't work, but they don't really cover the fact that they didn't use it the way it was intended to be used.
Exactly. Yeah.
Usually,
unless I bring them out on the show. Well, did you follow the directions?
LaGrange points out here, 2 to 1 is extremely easy to mix, and that's exactly correct. That if you fill a container with sugar to a certain point and then you fill it with water to that point and mix it, then that's 2 to 1. And the problem that I have and that James has in mixing sugar syrup is that you can't do it that way. You can't put the sugar in first. When you're mixing, in my case, I'm mixing in an IBC 1,000-liter tote. I can't put the sugar in first because it won't mix. I have to start with the water. And that's why I have to start doing math, and 1 kilogram to 1 liter, it's really hard math, but when I used to do it in a 5-gallon pail, I just mostly fill the pail with sugar and then fill it back to that level with water, and then
20 pounds of sugar,
your uncle, as they say,
3 gallons of water. That's about
let's just say measuring is 1 to 1. 1 to 1 is a little different, I guess, but 2 to 1 is dead simple.
Right.
When you can use the sugar first, when you put the sugar in first.
And now the other thing I was going to throw out there, this is my own personal opinion, but when you're mixing a sugar water up, I don't get hung up on it being exactly 1 to 1, and I don't get hung up. I can't get a 2 to 1. I can never seem to get 2 parts sugar to 1 part water to fully dissolve the sugar.
It'll precipitate pretty easily.
Yeah.
Well, 1.8 is about all you can really get.
Yeah, but I mean,
my 2 to 1 it should be like 300 pounds of sugar in there, but actually I make it a little bit lighter than 2 to 1, so my diaphragm pump will pump it.
Yeah.
Now I do
surprising
cook mine,
how
I do
tough
cook
it is to
Yeah.
And see that you have the advantage, Charlie, that you can mix it in warm water,
Yeah.
which I can't. 400
Yeah.
liters of water. That's a lot of water.
Yeah, unless you got an on-demand hot water tank or something.
Yeah, which I don't want.
So
Right.
Well, guys, it is 12:25 Eastern time, and I'm going to shut off the live stream. But we got the VIP if y'all want to hang around, and I've got wax in my melter in there, so I got frames to wax. So
Yeah.
James is all on me about waxing frames, so I got to be a good little beekeeper and go wax some damn frames.
That's right.
One thing I did find out is if your frames get rained on, they don't take the wax very well. It didn't take me but one frame to figure that out. Then I was pissed that I had to wait for them to dry. So, yeah, it's bad juju. And then when you go to try to correct it later, then the wax that did stick on the frame to begin with then peels off in big sheets because it didn't adhere to the foundation appropriately. So
It cooled. It just didn't stick.
yeah, it didn't stick. That's correct. Water and wax don't mix at all. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching the stream, and we'll see you guys on the next show.
good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.